Hello and welcome to the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan, and tonight we are going to be doing a campaign post-mortem on the Dark Kingdoms. With me tonight, we have, the order's going to be different because my window is different. We have Jason, who played Cutter the Faceless, a rogue Darecool duelist.
Jeweler?
We have Matt, Jeweler. Victor of the Calder, the human death cleric. We have Andy, who played as Beatum Doppelbream and stepped in for a short period to do Corin Fleshrend, the Darecool Battlemaster. You have Jess, who played Dariana Bloodright, our Elfmark Seraphage Sorceress, and Eric, who played Sylvester, our Dampier Warlock with his imp familiar Annie. And joining us is Janelle, who played as Selvin, you were a Darecool
Ranger.
Dark Elf? Ranger, yeah, but you were not. You were
Shadow
something. Shadow Fae, that's what it was. And also, I mean, obviously, like, amazing member of our community, runs our website, played, DM'd for Mycelium Madness, just all around awesome person. And Kim might be potentially joining us in a little bit. So tonight, we are basically just kind of bullshitting about fucking 2.5 years of playing games together and 80 sessions and all the stuff that happened kind of in and around, and just kind of wrapping up kind of maybe Dark Kingdoms. So if you have questions, just drop them in chat. Feel free to ask anything. We will get to them as much as we can, and we'll just see how much we can cover until we all don't feel like talking anymore.
Oh goodness, when will that be?
Well, for you, it's going to be
up, so I don't.
Right?
Oh yeah. Exactly.
So how's everybody doing tonight?
Good. It's going to be weird not showing up every Wednesday, you know?
Right. For now. I mean, I got something brewing.
Yeah, you got something brewing.
It's going to be really weird. No, but so this whole Adventure Archive, we're playing all kinds of games, but all of it was because of Dark Kingdoms. Yeah. And it's a very bittersweet ending. Like, I do need a break from this game, but at the same time, it's like it kept me connected to all of you, and yeah, it was kind of an amazing thing, and it spurred everything else that we've got going on too. So it's like, first of all, since we're just starting, thank you to all of you. It was really helped out a lot during COVID, and the last couple of years has been crazy, and it was awesome to still have this. So thank you all.
Wonderful job, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it was, I definitely I feel the same as Eric. I'm sad that it's over. I'm very fucking glad that it's done. Like,
does it feel like a huge weight off your shoulders now?
It's bittersweet. It's like,
yeah, it is. Bittersweet is perfect for it, because I fucking just don't want to play 5e anymore. I don't want to run 5e anymore. And I could rant for an hour about that.
Oh, we know.
But just listen to the weekly scroll, and you'll hear it every week.
The world's most marketed RPG, right?
Yeah,
you have a bunch of different things for
overrated.
it.
It's a new one every week. Yeah. It's not necessarily a game; it's the company. But regardless, I just don't want to run it anymore. And it's really been the more games that we went over on Weekly Scroll, the more. The fucking more money I spend on more games that just like are just not this. It makes me want to run those really, really bad. So I have a lot of plans on what to do going forward. But like Eric said, like, it's super bittersweet. This all started in my living room. I remember I invited, I had started a local meetup in our area, and then Andy had joined with me and kind of ran that with me for a long time, where we were doing 5e intro sessions and meet and greets, where we would have like 20 to 30 people. Like, every weekend, Andy was running Adventures League that had like 15 to 20 people. Like, every single weekend we were running like 5-6 different like things a month, or no more than that. Sometimes it was 2 to 3 a week, and it blew up, had a couple hundred people. It was a really great time. And then during that, I got to meet a lot of really awesome people, which is you people. And when I wanted to run a game, especially after a previous game that I had ran, where I kind of left it open to people and was like, that was a huge mistake, not doing that again. I kind of like hand-picked like a couple of people, where I was like, if I'm gonna play a game, these are the people that like I've met, that I really love, and that like I feel are great players and to really be able to sink their teeth into my first attempt at an Evil campaign. And that was all of you guys. And I was right. It was awesome, and you guys were fantastic.
It was interesting approaching that because we have a lot of experience with D&D in this group. I think, right? Like Eric, you've been in and out of it for a long time. I've been running for a long time. So when Ryan was like, "Let's do an evil campaign," all of us were like, "Okay, hold on one second. We need to talk about this a lot before we get into it. Like, here's some guidelines about how to not be like a shitty PC while you're being an evil character." So
and how to not cross the line with other players. We had a lot of safeguards put in place for this.
Yeah. I think though at the same time, like we all had known each other pretty well at that point, and for the most part, I mean, I don't think I probably pushed some people farther than anyone else in this group would have pushed some people. But I also had a lot of behind the scenes conversations that, unless you guys have talked to each other, some of you weren't privy about, just to make sure, or like right after something big happened, like had some conversations immediately after, like, was this okay? Was this not okay? Like, what are we going to do? Or like, hey, maybe that's awesome, but let's bring it down to like 1 or 2 notches. And I think, yeah, I don't really feel like there was really a moment in time for the most part, where people were like, this was not okay for me. Plus extenuating circumstances. So yeah, the evil campaign was, I mean, obviously I'm fucking edgelord douchebag and I like dark bullshit. So like this was just my way to be like, how much dark bullshit can I throw at people that are also kind of fucked up? Because you guys are all fucked up. I'm throwing it out there, like in such a good way, and I love you all for it. And it was great.
Well, I think too, a lot of our trial and error happened pre-stream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So at the time we started streaming, we kind of had a little bit more. And pros and cons of that is a lot of our viewers missed some of our really good evil shit. But by the same token,
even characters, complete characters.
Also, huh?
They even missed entire characters.
Yeah. My original character.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad in a way that happened, because my original character, Tongue Taker, was evil, but not, more of just a dumb barbarian who just might is right kind of character. So I liked the opportunity to play somebody that was more manipulative, a little bit, could push the envelope a little bit more.
Yeah.
Two things with that. One is I actually have recordings of almost all of our pre-stream episodes. I think at least maybe 24, 25 of the 30. So if at some point, well, listen, I'm throwing out there because it's a big fucking if, I ever get the gumption to actually find those, pull those out and do anything with them, maybe we'll put those up on YouTube or on
the zombie
fight podcast.
Oh.
I don't have the zombie fight. Actually, the zombie fight.
Don't have it.
The zombie fight is what made me start recording all the sessions, because I was like, that's one of my favorite moments ever. I never want to miss a moment like that again. I want to record these.
Such a good session. Oh my God.
One of my favorite sessions of all time. One of my favorite moments too, I'll throw it out there. Jason, man, I saw you gave up. It's the only time you were literally like, I asked you what you want to do, and you're like, who gives a shit? Well, I'm going to fucking die, so whatever. And I'm like, all right. Okay. And literally it was like the time before that, the zombie horde that I had created as like one creature, in my head, I was like, as soon as they hit this amount of XP or this amount of HP left, it's going to break apart into individual zombies. Yeah. And like the hit right before that had broken them apart into like 6 or 7 individual zombies at that point. And then the next person that hit, it was just like, oh yeah, like that one individual went down. It seems like they're not a horde anymore. It's just some of the people. And then like everyone's eyes were like, oh man, we might not fucking die. Let's, fucking kill them. And that was so much fun to just see everyone just kind of give up and just accept that they were going to die, and then somehow still pull through and make it, and then murder their companions.
Taker never gave up.
Yeah. The other part of that is, do you want to give away the first kind of secret-ish of the game about Tongue Taker and his death?
It's up to you.
Actually, it's up to you. It's your character.
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah. So, Tongue Taker's death was planned.
Oh,
really?
You.
What?
Talk about evil.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he wasn't evil enough.
So rather than like trying to change,
you watched Dre disappear, and
you said, "Fucking kill him."
Yeah. Yeah, Eric came to me and was just like, "Hey, listen, like, you know, loving the game and stuff like that, but I feel like the character I made, I could run in any game ever. Like, he's just a dumb barbarian and he's cool or whatever, maybe still dark, but like, I could run him anytime. And if we're gonna do an evil campaign, this might be the only chance I get to really run an evil campaign. I want to run a fucked up evil character. How do you feel about me running a different character?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, you know what do you want to do?" And he's like, "Well, fucking kill him." And I was like, all right, no fucking problem. So there was no fucking chance. I mean, if you guys even
Okay.
remember that combat, there was no fucking chance. It was literally like 3 treants and like 4 shambling mounds or something. And the shambling mound just like grabbed him and just like
Yeah.
crushed him while a
Well, wasn't
treant
it-
chased you away.
He was like standing watch, right? Like sitting literally
Yeah.
again, like
Yeah.
push it. Come on,
No,
buddy.
he heard something
Well-
like whatever in the distance, and when he walked out there and like looked over it, it was a shambling mound that just like grabbed him and
So-
fucking crushed him.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't totally planned. You're like, all right, I'll kill you. But I was like, I didn't know how.
Oh,
So-
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
okay, well,
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll do what Tongue Taker does and make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Which was
And speaking of character
perfectly
death, I
character,
think we
yeah.
speaking of character death, I think we brought this up a little bit before. Matt, I fucking murdered you on purpose so hard.
I know.
Yeah. good.
Well,
All
I will
right.
say this. What was interesting earlier, you were talking about how you know, Eric's character wasn't evil enough, but at least Eric understood how to be evil, and that was, I would say, it took me maybe 80 episodes to figure it out. Like,
No.
Not 80,
No, no,
not
no.
80 episodes.
I really think so. Here's the
And
thing.
answer
For those
Jeff.
of you also,
Don't do
Dre
that.
was completely pre-stream.
Yeah.
Matt had created a Shadow Fae Ranger, but he used a class that I had kind of like adapted and done a little bit, and it just wasn't a couple of things. One, backstory was way too convoluted with
Oh,
way
so
too many
much.
inspirations. So trying to run like evil in like 3 different ways like was too much. And then the class I think was a little bit too complicated. And then Dre's backstory kind of made him a very empathetic character,
Yeah.
which didn't really fit with anything else because he kept trying to be like a protector and stuff like that. And it just kind of lent him towards like being a very nice person that people really liked, which didn't really fit. But I also felt, me personally, I felt like you were kind of struggling with him as a character, both mechanically and like trying to figure out who they were. So
Yeah.
I just killed you. Yeah.
no, and
Yeah.
it was great though, because I will never forget how to use the disengage action, which
Yeah. But funny story, to be completely honest about it, I didn't even actually kill you.
Yeah,
I
I know.
planned to kill you. Like I didn't. So like the next room you went into, you were gonna die no matter what.
no matter what.
But you died on your own
Yeah.
by that
It was the
the-
one hit point slap.
Before you got
Yeah,
the blood
one.
ooze.
That's
Because I rolled all that on table. Like
Yeah.
that when that blood ooze came behind you,
It was
and you
perfect.
didn't, yeah, and Sam and I can't remember who else was with her, like ran away, but you got caught, and then it blood drained you, and the crit got you by 1
Yeah.
point above your max.
Yeah,
But you had previously in the Alcava, yeah, you opened it. You're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna open the door, and the lady like slapped the shit out of you for 1 point of damage, and that 1 point is what killed you. So I planned.
so
Here's the
good.
thing: I planned to kill you, and then you killed yourself anyway, which made me feel better that I didn't just do it without,
Ooh.
you know, a thing.
Saved the
So-
friendship.
So
Yeah.
off topic, Jason and I both threw up our backstories. Do you other people still have yours?
I threw Victor's up.
Oh, you did. Cool.
Victor doesn't really have one. That was his
That's
whole
why
thing.
it's beautiful.
It's
Mhm.
like a sentence.
Well,
No, it's like-
actually,
it's
and
two
the main
paragraphs.
reason I asked that was I'm still really curious about the Victor Beatum connection.
Oh, that's
We
totally.
could
I
talk
can
about
explain
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was-
I can explain that. Basically, Andy had a child. His wife did. Good job. You know, your wife.
Yes.
And then so Andy was gone for a while with Beatum. And then Dre died. So we were bringing in Victor. So we were waiting to see when Victor was going to be brought in. And then when I sat down and we talked about the next character, me and Matt, what we were going to do, I kind of pushed, well, Death Clerks are my favorite. And I had a couple of ideas where I was like, hey, listen, like if evil, because Matt's one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my entire life. He doesn't have an evil bone in his entire body. And
half
I
of
was
one
like, yeah, just sometimes half, sometimes full, it doesn't matter. But sometimes I was like, sometimes the easiest way to play a character like that is to pick a class and stuff like that feels evil. Like if you pick like a warlock or something like that where their spells are kind of evil feeling, it just makes it a little bit easier mechanically to like feel and sound evil when you're doing like mechanically evil shit. And he settled on the Death Cleric and then settled on the Kareev, which was like an evil race, and really made this character. And I said, also, I don't want 4 stories of backstory. Give me like a paragraph, and then we'll just grow your character from there and kind of like see where they settle in. And I would randomly get a message from Matt that was like, hey, how about this? And I was like, sure, like that could be something that like developed or a memory you remembered or whatever. So in order to bring both back in, because at the time I really cared about like the story being like making a lot of sense for stuff to come back in, Beatum came back after Alcava and after Jess was brought in. And we can talk about that too. And basically what I did with both characters individually to bring them back into the story was play out like an RP back and forth narrative with both of them individually, but their answers I rewrote to give to the other person. So I think probably about 90% of the time they didn't realize it, and maybe right at the end, like Andy and Matt kind of were like, oh, I'm talking to Andy, or oh, I'm talking to Matt. And basically Matt was across,
super fun though. Like I found that
Matt was
really
across
enjoyable.
the plains. Yeah, Matt was across the plains and suddenly felt a calling from Chernobog to just head west. So he got on a horse and just started heading west. And eventually he found a grove. Because if you guys remember, Andy originally disappeared because his arch nemesis,
Tulkygrim,
blew up that whole tavern and kidnapped him.
Yeah.
So he was actually being murdered in a swath of trees, like chained up, being stabbed. And Andy actually has a pendant of wound healing. Is that what it is?
A parapet of wound closure.
Right. So when you like hit 0, you don't. You just like hit 1.
So those assholes would just kept killing him
over and over
Yeah.
again, and then letting the Periapt heal him.
That's some
So
good evil
basically,
shit right there.
you should read it. I'll try to
not
find
that
all this
evil.
stuff and send
I
it to
want
you.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Tulkygrim's amateur evil compared to
yeah.
other
But
things.
long story short, I had Matt like seeing this copse of trees. What do you want to do? And like he's like, well, I do this. I was like, okay, well, you see this flame. What do you want to do? I come in here and I do this. You see this person that you don't recognize, like chained up, like on all fours, naked with like blood all over them. What are you gonna do? And at the same time, I was talking to Andy about like, as you come to, Tulkygrim is gone. You see this like hulking figure like coming into the flame. What do you want to do? And then had this back and forth until others then she was like, okay, you two are talking to each other. What do you want to do? And I told Victor that Chernobog had gave him this sense of like, I must protect whoever the fuck this is. This person is going to change stuff and I have to protect them. And that was just an urge he had from his god. So that was their whole thing, is he like found the thing that was calling to him, saved him, and then felt like both a protector and that this person was like a father figure after that. And then when they started going west, you guys ran into him at the river, and that's where they stayed upstairs in my side room for 2 hours waiting for you guys to just go to the fucking river so they could walk down the stairs arguing in character and come back to the game. So that's what that went.
You should have known better by then.
Yeah, it was fun to have Matt basically come in with a character that we already had a connection, because it's nice like when you start as like a party of strangers for like a unified purpose, eventually you find like your connections or whatever, and this one was like, no, we just have the connection already like baked in, and the role play chat that we had was really very fun. That was
super fun.
I was like,
two things on that point was, one, I definitely experienced that coming into Sylvester, which was why I kind of manipulated Victor a little bit. And two, one thing we did lose when we went to stream was our we had a lot of RP off the table.
Yeah.
We had Discord channel RP going on a lot, which was kind of cool. And I enjoyed a lot of that. And I feel like that translated into the game a little bit. I feel like our RP dropped slowly but surely through the stream.
Yeah, because you don't have the body language as much.
Yeah. Well, this being online hurts in general because, people like you get more people like talking over each other, so they're not wanting to talk, and then like because you aren't next to people and you can sense when they're fixing to talk and things like that. It's really really different. But Guild of Troll has like the off stream Discord channel that they do. I think that was a big loss, and I definitely
And I
feel like
think
we could have kept. Yeah, we could have kept going with that. Also, I think it would have made things
you do
go
another
quicker
campaign,
because
it doesn't
Yeah.
work for short arc stuff, but if you do another campaign,
yeah, we definitely
I
have
think
that.
that's good stuff
Yeah.
to bring back. I think that was
Again, I
really
think-
cool.
I think we accomplished more when we did that because there was a lot of stuff that we did on stream that we could just do in the Discord channel instead, so that we could just get up and going the next time.
Right.
Like a lot of the downtime stuff where it was just conversations we did in the Discord and stuff like that. And then we went to completely on stream. So we had like, a third of our episode each time kind of just like catching up or like doing little things that didn't really matter or doing things like that. Not that it didn't matter, but you know what I mean? And then it just kind of bogged it down a little bit sometimes. So yeah, I completely agree. If or when I run another campaign, we're definitely going to have like an RP Discord channel just for the
Yeah.
players that people are able to go read and do whatever. And, any in between session stuff we could totally do there. I 100% agree with you
Wasn't-
there.
I feel like that's kind of where Brian grew on me. Was like there was like a bunch of overnight stuff. We were at Janelle's
Right.
farm.
That farm
Yeah.
where I killed the
Yeah.
family and we stayed there, and there's a bunch of
You
RPs.
killed Janelle and Tracy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
Oh
Janelle.
my god.
I killed you.
Yeah.
Killed
Yeah.
your family.
In
My
game.
bad.
Yeah.
No.
So another big secret.
Well, also
Bro-
too, sorry, back to the
Oh,
RP
no,
thing.
also too- Yeah.
Going into right after that, our whole when we went to the town to go get the princess, we had a bunch of off-channel RP there as well, like a ton.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely would have been good. Another little secret of the campaign: Brian was not supposed to exist, and I fucked up, and it's the only reason you had him.
Oh,
I wanted to kill him so bad
Wait, why?
because if you read the spell,
She's still protecting him.
you only have the elemental for like I think an hour, and then it either goes away or attacks you because it's a fucking blood elemental. Like
Yeah.
What?
I had the option of that
No.
spell. I'm like, wait a second, this is gonna turn on me.
yeah, it
Like
turns
that.
on you in an hour.
Jess, tell him.
Wait,
But
What's the spell? Blood element?
Summon
no,
elemental.
it's like no, it's like it's based on that too, but it's like the blood pearl necklace or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the same as like any summon. You only get a summon for like an hour. Like if you summon demon, the demon's
Oh.
only you're outside for like an hour, and then it does its own fucking thing or disappears.
I thought
So I was just like, fuck it, whatever. It seems cool. And
It
then
does
like
seem
pretty
cool.
quickly I was like, oh man, he's supposed to be gone. Do I murder him or not? For pretty much like, half the campaign.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Say
Surround
what
everything
you
with
wanted
water.
to do.
It's
Say what
part of
you,
it.
Jess. Tell him what you were gonna do when you got that ultimatum in the last or the decision between.
So I probably should have done this.
This would have
but
been so good.
I know, because then I could have been like really evil.
What?
I was
Tell-
going.
Tell-
I should
say
have
it.
killed Brian. I should have poured the anticoagulant on Brian, and then just been like, "Screw
Just-
you, bitch," and then crushed another one of the pearls and made another.
Yeah, because it would have
Brian.
been great. Because
Yeah.
like this
No
entire
way.
time, we think that she cares about Brian, and that would have been a great. And we're like, oh, you think I give a fuck about this thing? He's just a tool. And then like,
Oh
here's
my
another one.
god.
That would have
Oh
been
my
so
God.
good. That would have been so good.
That
And
would
then
have
I
been
had
epic.
three
Because you
more
have like
blood
two more.
pearls.
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
but Janelle.
So I
Yeah.
could have made like a few more.
Imagine break
And you
the
could have
heart.
even had an army of Brian's in
Yeah.
the final fight. You literally could be
I
like,
was
fuck it,
too
smash, smash,
attached
smash.
to Brian. That's what happened. I couldn't be evil.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Ah.
It was because
By
of the
the way-
so now
name.
you're a
We
now you're a
still-
vampirist for 10 years.
And the-
Well,
It would have
You
been so
didn't-
much more
we-
badass.
did she not leave on the boat with us? Because I had a
Yes.
whole plan set aside if after that final battle, we were going to go back to the temple. I have that living stake, which is
Oh,
really good
yeah.
on vampires, which I got first session as Sylvester. In the
Oh.
Marguerite Forest, I found this thing. It's called the living stake, and you put it in a vampire, and it basically just spreads and kills them.
Fucks him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What?
I was
I
gonna give
dropped that
to
in there.
Jason and say,
Yeah.
hey, when you see the opportunity, hit her with this because he's the sneakiest one. I was gonna hit her with power word stun. I couldn't have Dariana involved in it because she made the deal, but I didn't make a deal. They gave me a sleeping drug, so fuck her. I had no part of this arrangement. So I was like, Jason, here, you'll know when. And I was going to hit her power word stun. There's no save. He stabs her. We're just going to kill this bitch.
Oh, that would have been so good.
That would have been so fucking cool. And then you would have all been murdered immediately by Lucan. You'd have been hunted down and slaughtered very badly.
That's what I was worried about.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What'd you do at 10?
Because
Blow me. Actually, I'm
because
saving it. I didn't get to use it, so it's still in my back
Yeah.
pocket for Lucan, to be perfectly honest.
so that's the reason I threw
Oh.
it out there. That's the reason it's in the campaign at all, was because I assumed you guys would eventually go for Lucan.
Oh yeah, I'm going for everybody.
The other part of it is the only reason this even came up is because you guys didn't call Lucan, and he was pissed.
Yeah.
I'm throwing it out there.
Totally fair.
Yeah,
Totally fair.
and when he finally was able to get a hold of where you guys should have been, or he knew you guys relatively were, his only contact down there was Dollingen, who had been like the back and forth between him and the Ghoul Imperium, and he knew she was in Vandercool. So he got in contact with her and was like, if you see them, pass this on, because these fuckers won't return my calls. I'm pissed, and you can do whatever you want. And then Dollingen decided what she wanted was Dariana.
And it might
Yeah.
not have come out. The story might not have gotten back to him that way. Who knows?
Yeah.
We're
Who knows?
speculating.
Yeah.
A lot of things
Yeah.
happen in a violent overthrow of.
Yeah,
of
well, and that
Sure.
sounds in chaos. First of all,
It's burnt. It's burned to the fucking ground.
And
Like-
we gave the old guy, the old leader, his staff of the underworld. So he's coming in.
Oh, if you
You've
don't
got-
think that if you don't
Yeah,
think
that
that
place
he
is-
knows that the city is on fire with no leader right now and isn't marching on it right now, like, yeah. So yeah, like in the
Oh, yeah.
meta sense of the world, like if he's able to take the second largest city of the Imperium, it'll be a big fucking deal. And if the Emperor was basically like showing up to deal with this stuff, and basically the story in the Imperium is that some outsiders came in, uncovered Duke Drago Blackfly's like traitorousness, but murdered him for some unrelated bullshit. And in the process of investigating that, they discovered the traitorness, because basically the Emperor knew the whole time that this shit was going on, but knew that Blackfly had enough support that if he were to call him out on it, there'd potentially be like a civil war, like an uprising that he didn't want to deal with. But if other people came in and handled the problem for him, and then when Blackfly was gone, he basically just exposed that he was a traitor, and also like quietly got rid of some of the higher ups too, like Radomir Marrowblight, potentially Smiling Margaret, which you guys never saw because she's dead. Like he would be able to squash that without dirtying his hands at all and still be the Emperor. And you guys were basically manipulated the entire time to do that by Corin Fleshrend, who sent Selvin your way, who sent you a key, who then himself came out to guide you guys in so that you could solve the problem for the Emperor.
Because you're a bunch of dilly-dalliers. Jeez.
No, but we kind of knew that. I mean, we didn't know exactly. I kind of was like, what's with the Emperor showing up now? Like, why didn't you handle your own shit? But we kind of knew
Machinations.
We knew we were pawns in this scheme
The whole time.
Yeah.
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 So,
And then as far as the finale goes, couple I think the most important thing that you did was Jason chucking that fucker into the pit.
Oh,
Nice.
I said from the beginning, all they need is Radomir Marrowbite's blood. So the Regala, the demon, like
Not Radomir,
Lord.
like Duke Avgos blood.
Duke Avgos.
yeah, then you Avgos, Marrowblight wanted Duke Avgos blood. That was going to seal the ceremony. So basically, he brought the Duke down and he summoned Regala, which is basically like the Cthulhu of Vardizane. It's like this badass, crazy creature that's really just like the harbinger of this worst thing, right? And that was what's going to lead Vardizane in, or like allow the ritual to take place that does what it's going to do for the Derrickul. And what it was going to do was basically allow them to instantly create Derrickul. So they could make as many as they want, and they'd be a lot more powerful when they did. And there wouldn't be this like, you get bit and maybe you're a ghoul, or maybe this. No, everyone bit becomes a Derrickul and is a much more powerful, was going to be part of it. So they could have just made
Oh.
everything a fucking Daricool and taken it all over. But the creature, if you remember, was kind of incorporeal. All they needed to do was bleed Abgost on that altar, and it would have brought that creature fully into the realm, doubled its already ridiculous HP, and just started fucking wiping out everything. Before Marrow Blight could stab him, because literally it was the very next turn, he was just going to stab Abghost.
Wait,
Jason
what
runs
happened?
up and just chucks him into a pit.
But I thought that would have been Dariana disintegrating him. What happened first?
I threw him in the pit first.
First,
He threw him in the pit first.
I thought it was
And
like
then-
pointless because then he just comes through a portal later. You know, I was like, oh well, fuck it,
But
whatever.
then we had the chance to disintegrate him, so there's nothing to stand. So
Yeah.
those two
If you
things
had hit him
together
with
were
literally
gold. Right.
anything else that would have spilled one drop of blood on that altar,
Dang, what
if you
luck.
hit him with literally any other spell, that's what happens when you guys fucking TPK, basically, because there's no way. You guys did 14 damage. The thing is immune to everything, and even in an incorporeal state, had 250 hit points. So it took half everything at 250. It would have almost doubled that. It would have added an extra attack. It would have been like literally impossible, basically.
Because
And you disintegrated.
I
blood.
knew they wanted his blood, so I went in with a couple plans. One was I was going to polymorph. If he was conscious, Abghost, I was going to polymorph him into something.
A true polymorph? Because I wonder if we get technical about that. Because I guess it's still, even if he's
still
a
his
chicken.
blood, but I wasn't thinking one drop. I was thinking they have to bleed this guy. So that's one of my things, is polymorph him into something to help fight with us. Actually, I was thinking like a grade 8 or something. Or when he was in the cage being lowered, I was just going to polymorph him into like a fly. Just get out of the cage and
fly away. Yeah.
fail.
Awesome.
But that came into my mind after he was in the cage. Going into the fight, I was thinking, I'm going to polymorph this guy into something to fight with us because I've already talked to him in his dreams. But I knew they wanted his blood, and that was the whole deal. I always had her disintegrate spell in the back of my mind. And then when it was coming, because we'd leveled up not too long before, I was trying to decide on spells, and one of them was like a dimension door thing. I'm like, I could just throw this guy in there. But I'm like, God, that's a one-shot spell to use him for that. I'm like, no, I'm not going that way. So I had dropped that. But yeah, my whole thing going in was his blood. They just want his blood. How do we avoid that?
Yeah, you guys avoided a lot of stuff in that final area by going down to that bottom door. There's a bunch of random shit in like this hallway at the room, but there's also a lot of information in there, like Radomir Merblight's journal that explained like everything he wanted to do and like a whole bunch of stuff going there. But you guys were like, ding ding, all right, we're here. That totally fucking works for me.
So the moral of the story is trust Cutter, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Of course,
basically.
that's more
He
of
led
every
you the
story,
shortcut,
right?
and he.
I
throws you
enjoyed
over
the
the
part
edge.
where Keter then he talks about like how he's from neither world. Like I actually thought that was a great ending.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought you were gonna be like, you know what? This is my opportunity to like be my own boss.
No, I'm actually
didn't
surprised you thought that, because Cutter is
didn't
not
get
at
it.
all about owning land or having power or any of that. He's just kind of.
See, it's
Well,
I
and
thought
there's a
more
civil
of
war
I thought
coming.
more of
Who
it's
wants fucking land when it can be taken by the next regime?
yeah.
Like, who knows who's winning this thing?
I
didn't-
thought it was I was
That's more
curious what
collective
direction
thinking.
you were gonna go, whether you were gonna be like, this gives me a chance to like get out of the gutter and be my own boss and be my own man and choose my own whatever, and or if you were just gonna say fuck it and yeah. I mean, I thought I didn't know what you were gonna do, but I thought you were gonna be like, all right, like I'm not Rojin's pawn anymore, I'm not Lucan's pawn anymore. I can leave that whole shit behind me. I can go back to the, you know, where my path could have been had Ray's not done what he did.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
yeah.
mean, Cutter was never, even if for those of you who read the backstory, he was never like, you know, he never had an ego in terms of I want to be the best. He just was really good at what he was doing.
Well,
he was a
it said
flesh
he
hunter.
swallows his ego and pushes it down.
Yeah, and then like he
Not that he doesn't have one. That's what I got from that, is that he does, but he forces that fucking ego down.
I could see that. I could see that.
Are
That's
we
what
at
I
a
got.
good point to bring in?
Yeah. You can hop in. Yeah.
Yeah,
The link should be
the
here in
window
the chat. It's got
yeah.
the link.
window is open.
Yeah.
All
Bring it
right.
down.
All right.
I honestly wasn't sure like which way I was going to take it either. I knew that I wanted Cutter to kind of have this realization. That's what I did at the very end, and that's why I was trying to go back to Ray's. But amid all the chaos, I wasn't able to like do that finally. But the whole thing is that he realized he's not this. He doesn't need this facade anymore, you know, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
What's up,
So it was
Cam?
interesting either way. How's it going, Cam?
Hello.
Hey, Cam.
hey, Cam.
Hey,
Welcome. Good to see
Long
you.
time no see. Yeah.
So,
Good.
so how do you think Andy did with Cam for the last couple of episodes?
I
Or
mean,
with Corin?
the soldier bar was a bit of a bumble, but the rest of it was pretty good.
classic Andy.
Cop
man.
bar.
I know.
Very
It
theatrical.
spiraled into something that I did.
We
not
should
think
we
was
should have
gonna
gone in there
happen.
wearing mustaches. That would have.
And I was just trying so hard not to get corn.
I was
in
like,
a
are
fucking
you gonna
bar."
kill me on the first session? Like the first thing you do is like, I'm gonna go walk him into the enemy's place where they hang out and drink and piss him off.
I got a to me, I was like, this feels a little bit like Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah.
With yeah.
I know
So-
he's after. I know what he's doing. I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Great play. However, you always have to keep in mind when Andy's playing a character of yours, the whole reason we have the go ham, right?
Oh, I play with
That's
absolute
Andy.
Go hams in the
abandon.
chat. Go
I
hams in the
play
chat.
with absolute abandon. I'm
That's
sorry.
Andy.
Yeah.
I'd like
No
to think I am,
self-preservation.
but no, that's Andy. That's all Andy.
Classic.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I actually have to get going sometime soon.
Yeah. Well, I was
so-
gonna ask. That was
Can
the
I
next
share
thing. Do
something
you?
really quick before
Sure.
you go, Andy? So, I joined in this game and some great players in here, and I'm like, how do I be a better player? So I always did these little things like DMs do DM prep. So I would kind of try and do some player prep. Like, how do I be a better player? So, and a lot of stuff I didn't get to use. And there's one thing, and I actually brought this question up earlier about why does he follow Beatum? Why does Victor is attached to Beatum? So so I was going through my notes and I found this thing, and I brought up in our last session, but I knew, or not our last session, our second to last session. And I asked Victor, like, why are you following? Why do you think you all, when we were at the bar? But I knew we were pressed on time, so I didn't bring up my whole thing. But I've like different notes on conversational downtime for RP stuff that I would bring up with whoever I'm talking with. So, and this is one, actually, I was going to bring up with Beatum as to why do you think this guy's after, like, what the hell's going on? Why does he follow you all the time? And I had this little thing, and you say, I don't know, or you might say whatever you said. But I was gonna say, well, I've heard a lore about the beginnings of the first gnome. And I know there's lots of stories, creation stories about whatever, and this may be true or not. But supposedly eons ago, Chernobog and Baba Yaga had a bit of an amorous tryst. Those things happen amongst the gods. They're an incestuous bunch, right? Anyways, one day Baba Yaga finds a teratoma on Chernobog's anus. And I don't know if you're familiar with what a teratoma is, but it's like a little tumor and it contains hair and teeth, all sorts of things, right? And so she cuts it off of him. Like she cuts it off, like, well, let me get that off you. You don't need that. Cuts it off, but she discreetly keeps it. And from that, she creates the first gnome,
Oh my God.
who you all call Mother.
Other.
She created the gnomes.
Why aren't you
And,
running games,
that would
Eric?
explain why Chernobog would have a soft spot for gnomes.
You
A literal soft spot.
Nailed it.
A literal soft spot.
Oh, there's teeth.
Nice.
that's
Nice.
that's wonderful.
That's my
Teeth.
creation story.
Yeah.
For
And it,
gnomes.
and it, and
Don't
it
have
goes
a
all the
nightmare
way
tonight, Andy.
back to Victor's asshole. I mean, it's
So-
like this.
Yeah, all the way back.
It's
to Victor's house.
all the way,
circle.
man.
I
All makes sense.
I
have
still
one
don't
small
understand the
improvement.
context in which that happened.
I
You
have
just gotta
one
watch the
small
video.
improvement to that tale. It was not a little growth with teeth. It was an errant pinky toe growing out of it.
There you go.
Like a third nipple, but a pinky
Well, so
toe.
you could correct my story. Oh, I must have.
There you go.
It was a pinky toe.
Fucking toes.
Like a dookie.
Little toe.
Andy, before you go, is there anything you
No,
want to say?
I can stick around for a little bit because I mean I don't have to like not like immediately in an hour, just
Yes.
soonish. So I just wanted to give people an opportunity to ask stuff. You know,
What do you want to say or ask or do? Yeah, because we can. I think. I think after this, we'll kind of hit everybody individually, see if people have questions. You know, like talk about your characters, character growth, and we'll just kind of go around and be able to hit the highlights for everybody.
This
and then
isn't
kinda take from
about
there.
this isn't about beat 'em necessarily. I just wanted to say I've played a ton of Dungeons and Dragons over the years, and it's pretty rare you meet a group of people that you just love hanging out with. And it's funny talking to Eric before the stream because I'm just like, I just want to hang out with you. Like we hang out and we play like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and I'm just like, I like you people because you're great people. And to play this amazing game with you is tons of fun. And a lot of it has to do with you being awesome people. So thanks for letting me be part of that. I had a really good time.
Well, it's like at Janelle's Christmas party. That's what I told you, Andy. We were just chatting about stuff on the side. He's like, "Oh, have you played, any other games or any of that?" I'm like, "Nah, man." I go, like, this is the group, like, like, and not to talk shit about anybody who we've played with in the past, but let me just say that I've played with a few of them, and like, they're not my people. So it's just you just vibe with people or you don't, And I think what really matters is that you guys all have the same goals in playing games like these, right? Some people just want to screw off and be an asshole, but then I think when you find a group of people that have the same goal in mind, that's when it all kind of works. So, yep.
I have some questions for you guys before I take off. First off, Sam, how much of Corrin's backstory worked out with the Emperor? Was it like a in progress thing, or did you know?
Yeah, so when and I want to talk about that at some point too, of me joining a 2-year-long campaign, like 6 episodes before the end. That's a very unique thing. But as far as Corrin's backstory, that was the whole plan from the whole beginning. The story of him being this like Ronin Daracool who was like assigned to this lore was a complete lie, all bullshit. He was a soldier at one point, but then he entered the court of Narasane, and he's been his agent in one form or another the entire time.
It's so for us, yeah,
and I said for us, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Because I knew that there was some connection. I just didn't realize how like deep it was. So it was even a surprise to me with Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, like it's definitely retconned because like that. I mean, Ryan can explain himself. I think he thought this up when him and I were discussing how to shoehorn Corrin into it. Because I don't know, like was the character or was the role that Corrin played, is that like a character that I like took over, like that was supposed to be someone else in the story?
A little bit. There's a character in the story that was the person who was Selvin's contact and who gave the key and everything. And that person had never been named, but they existed within the spy master and all that kind of stuff. And then when I thought of, it's this kind of same thing with Selvin. Selvin existed as kind of an NPC within the story, but then when I was like, okay, what can we do, Janelle, to make this character kind of unique to you, but still fit the piece that I need? It was the same kind of thing. So like there was this NPC within this kind of story, because I was vaguely using Empire of the Ghouls from Midgard with a lot of changes. So there's an NPC that did do that. I mean, there's even a thing, if you guys had got too much heat and got captured in the story, the whole heat thing was an addition to it. But if you fucked around and got captured in the city, this guy was just going to show up and be like, I've been helping you the whole time. Why do you keep fucking up? And then I paid this guy off. Can you just get the fuck out and go do your job? I kind of merged what Cam wanted to do as a character with this kind of spy master NPC, and we talked about that. And basically the story was he became that contact the whole time and was kind of like waiting for you guys to head in this direction to kind of like do whatever he could to kind of match up with you and then start pushing you in the right direction. And then when that was going on, he actually incidentally got captured by the Darrow and turned into a little baby. So you guys both saved him and then like also had a reason to be like, well, you know, we don't really suspect, I guess, because he was this prisoner or whatever. And then it can just be like, well, what direction are you guys going? I guess I'll go that direction too. Why the fuck not? And it just, you know, and then started going in the right direction. And that also gave me an in to be able to feed you guys information about the empire and cities and stuff like that, because you had someone who actively currently lives there. So that's what the whole like. Yeah.
Cam, when you're giving information about the Imperium, it was like you knew. I felt like there were so like few times where you're like, Ryan, would there be? It was like, oh yeah, that's one of these things. I was just like, did he just read the entire book? Did you?
I saw the only thing I read was the Gazette. So the thing that Ryan told me to read was the Underworld Gazette, but the rest of it was either just hunches or hoping.
Oh.
Yeah, I got the same impression. I'm like, damn.
He knows.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. And this one is for Jess and Eric. So there was a portion of time there where we all had familiars, and it was like huge party and just familiars all over the place. And I actually ended up changing Beatum's like play style, because in the beginning he was entirely built on just summoning his familiars who were unnamed because he didn't give a shit about them dying.
Snaky and
Snaky,
Owly
Batty,
and,
Owly, just dumb stuff.
Well, Tongue Taker killed one.
Yeah,
Tongue Taker killed one.
And he didn't know where the snake was coming from. He just like fucking killed the snake.
And then throwing them in to basically deliver a spell attack and die. And how, because I know, Jess, your Brian was not really a familiar, but he essentially became a familiar and you became emotionally attached to him. And Annie was basically part of Pact of the Chain and all that. So did you ever think in that period of time, you're like, oh, there's too many familiars in the party at all?
Yeah, and so I dismissed her quite a bit when we had a lot of familiars. And Annie, again, too, though, different from yours, because you were using yours.
No RP at all. Like that's actually ultimately what led me to change the thing. When Beatum had the RP session with Dariana, where he spoke elemental to Brian and found out his name was Brian. That was the point.
I was kind of
we couldn't pronounce it, right?
Yeah. That was the point where I was like, I can't do familiars anymore. I just have to get rid of it because Brian is a party member now. So
I approached mine kind of between you two. So mine weren't quite Annie. I knew she could die, and I was fine with that because I could summon her back as long as I had the Crash Brazier. So I was like, whatever. Like I'll use her in combat and do that. I wasn't quite as nearly as you were with yours, nor I shouldn't say not as attached as she was to Brian, because if you read my backstory, very attached. Like that's my first contact to my patron, but I also know if she dies, she's right back. Like Annie's kind of my best friend, like Brian. But I also know that if Annie died, and I say she, but Annie was just a convenient name because I couldn't pronounce real name.
Like Brian.
She, he, I don't know, gender wise.
They.
That could just bring back. So life wise, not that much, but connection wise, for sure. Trusted, like
Yeah.
I was prepared to kill any one of you in the party if need be. But Annie was my best.
Well, if you read the Hamish
Yeah.
backstory, you know, you
Yeah, read
understand
the
where Annie kind of
backstory.
came
That's my
in.
first connection to my
Literally, connection to your warlock powers was Annie. And what's interesting too is though that you didn't really often use Annie in combat. There were a couple times where you really did, but like when you were in the Southlands, she was like on the other side of the city watching stuff. When you guys were in the city, the whole time she was sitting on the boat. I don't think you summoned her at all for the final combat. So there's a lot of times where you used her more out of combat
and
as
her role changed when she leveled up.
and we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. Another question real quick. Sorry, I'm just gonna rattle off
Okay.
a couple. This is gonna be a fast one. Jason, how's it feel to be one of the 2 original members of the party?
Great. Yeah, high five. There you go.
But you're not even there right now, so
Yeah, I
really
know.
it's just Cutter.
It's just
No,
Cutter.
yeah,
And you-
that's true.
And you almost were the only original member of the party pretty quickly at Alcava too.
Oh yeah, that would have been interesting to see what would have
Yeah,
happened
just-
there.
The
Black.
campaign would have been over.
You're like,
was
wait,
the
wait,
to wherever
you can get
Beatum
one
was.
more shot in. Wait,
I
just
literally
try
was
it.
like, "Oh my god, please just shoot one more time. You've missed 18 times in a row, but just hit her once." And I
feel
still
like that was-
I still chopped some points off of her. She's probably still had like 20 hit points left, but I was like, "No, this is it. If you hit her, she's dead. Come on, just fucking do this." So
I do feel like that fight was one of Tongue Taker's better evil moments, though. Not that fight, but going up there when they the town before, when he's like, "No, you don't get our wagon," and like
yeah,
lit it
burn
on
that
fire.
shit. Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
It became one of our
It's just
signature
like,
moves.
And I think that's what spurred me on
Yeah.
to pick a different character. Was I want a more manipulative, sneakier character.
And Sylvester is fucking amazing. Such a good character and good
Mhm.
addition.
Yeah.
The tavern with
God.
the wolves and shit. Jesus fuck.
One of the best. One of
Good
the
shit.
best moments of the entire campaign. I was like,
What else
oh
you
my
got,
God.
Andy?
Nat. I never thought our relationship between Beatum and Victor was gonna turn so like father-son, like and really that kind of came from you. And
Yeah.
I definitely like latched on and fostered it a little bit for to be honest, Beatum's own selfish reasons.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask what kind of inspired that for Victor. I wanted to hear you talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was Ryan had me do it like the 1 paragraph backstory. And I had, before I talked with Ryan, like part of his backstory was that he had kind of been the Reaper for the gnomes of Nihheim. Like he was on loan from his orphaned parents. So he spoke Nagrimi and stuff. And so that was like the little part of it. And I knew that I added that in because like I really enjoyed how you role played stuff. And so I wanted to be able to speak Gnomish, basically. And then Ryan did that weird RP where how I came like across you. And because it was like that pull west, like for me, like one of the things my wife makes fun of all the time is just that, you know, ever since my dad like passed away, like I just always am trying to live up to my dad, you know? And so sometimes you put a little bit of your real self into it because it makes it really easy, right? And so I think for Victor, it made more sense because he respected strength, and Beatum was this thing that was tiny and not strong, but could kick some serious ass. Like you would, like when Beatum would fight, pretty much until kind of Sylvester joined the fray, like Beatum could lay waste to stuff, which was really cool. And so, yeah, I think for me, like it just made it fun. And I think this sounds crazy, but you know, when we were stuck in that room for like 2 hours and just chatting, and like it was the beginning, like I never painted a mini before then, right? And you like handed me those paints, and now I paint minis like all the time.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that a couple times, but the idea that you're continuing doing it is like, yes, one of my missions in life.
To me, it was mostly just to be like a part of that, and then because I didn't understand like what Chernobog the pool was, but I knew that you were killing the most things and you were doing like the most evil stuff kind of in the beginning. And so for me, being a person who's shit at being evil, it made a lot of sense to like latch onto that and then kind of
Mm.
build on it.
Well, I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, good.
I got a question for you, Ryan, and this is a pre-stream question. So in our adventures, we came to a ruin on the way to Paranelia, and in that ruin there was a beholder who shouted something at us and a name, and we didn't stick around to figure out through some amazing Eric between Eric and I. Because who was it that made it blank? Who basically like sent it out of somebody banished it.
Maybe
I
it
did,
was
Victor did.
No,
Oh
the
The two priests.
not the two.
no.
No, you know the
Beholder.
the beholder. I banished the beholder.
Yeah.
Okay, so after that we ran away, but I was so curious. What the hell was that ruins, and what was up with the beholder?
Yeah, same.
It was
here.
what it was kind of like, you know, when you hit like the montage part of a show where people are just kind of like bumbling through some like adventure things, and you just get like a cutscene of maybe like, here's this interesting bit, and like, oh, this, and then they just kind of like go. It was nothing. It was just like a way for me to be like, oh, this seems like a cool place to sleep. It's fucking not. And then you got to keep going.
You threw a beholder, which actually I 100% appreciate, because it's a fucking world, and it could be like a homeless bum or something.
It was
all.
well, and you wouldn't have even summoned it, but I think it was Sam who kept kicking shit down this fucking hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And it was just like, who the fuck is kicking stuff down this hole?
Yeah,
if you guys went
tower.
into the tower or the buildings and quietly slept, you would have had the opportunity to sleep. The other part of it was that's when I was definitely kind of like starting to like really gear towards other games and just be like, not every encounter is fucking balanced. And somebody
I think that's
encountered that face to face, and I was like, if you guys fight this head to head right now, you're gonna probably so run.
No,
this is my reminder. I know it's 5e, but run.
I love that encounter, because
Yeah.
I do think, and I don't think that's necessarily a problem with D&D 5e. It's more just how people run it. I don't think encounters. It's a world,
Right, and that brings
some
me.
things you run across is like a sleeping bum, and you just,
Yep.
if you're evil,
Manipulate it and make it burn down a
and some
pleasure
things are,
barge, and
right. If something's
Yeah.
on the holder, and you best figure your way out of this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be dead.
That's what I read. I read a great article in that knock, that OSR, that compendium we have, Ryan, and it talks about that exact thing. It says that don't worry if things seem meaningless; they will be meaningful to the players because they don't know what the fuck it is. And so, like you said, Eric, is that everything's a living, breathing world. There doesn't have to be a significance or a plot point or some kind of thing. Whereas I think a lot of people in D&D think that is the way it is run. But like when you start, and that's another reason why I'm interested in other systems, is you start thinking differently about RPGs, and you understand like, oh shit, like that was a huge eye opener for me. Like, wow, this seems just completely arbitrary and just nothing at all. But from a different perspective, and I realized that when I ran Merkborg with you guys in the dungeon, you guys are creeping down these halls, like not knowing what these statues do. It's just a fucking statue, you know? And so that really has a lot of power, I think, with role-playing games, that it's all about who knows what, you know?
And that's why I like exactly what you're saying, is that's why I do like random tables, but they need to be truly random and not level specific random.
Right.
You know, so random encounter.
Yeah.
Random.
That's
like,
you walk. One of the big reasons I love Victory Basic, you know, and I know you said like you don't have to run 5e like that, but when the mechanics and the rule books and the modules and all the DM tips and all the DMs that that WotC is pushing.
I understand your frustration. I do.
Well, there's a system on how to balance encounters.
And I really love Midgard. I love the Cobalt Press.
Midgard is so much better than the current 5e Forgotten Realms. It's not even fun.
No, I'm not done with 5e myself, but you know.
Yeah, okay. I definitely would play it.
That's not to say I don't want to play other systems, because I do totally appreciate and enjoy other systems. But
all right, so one last thing, Janelle, how was it to come in and guide
Yes.
these bumbling adventurers from
Chucklefucks.
one. Yeah, exactly.
Fucks. Yeah.
When you have like the direction and like some of the insight from Ryan, was it weird to like have us come in and just be like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing?
Well,
or,
not only
like-
that, as like a viewer for like,
Yeah.
I mean, how many sessions? Like probably what 60 sessions prior to that to then just come in as a character.
and then be like, I know you, but I don't.
Yeah, right.
So
talk about that
did
a
you
little.
realize that she was considering eating Beatum?
No, not at all.
Cool.
She has
'Cause, you
terrible
know,
taste.
The tiniest one in the group just decides to walk up to her and she's like, okay, I'll
Yeah,
learn about you.
All by ourselves, off from the group.
Yeah, we're like 40 feet ahead of everyone else, going like, all right, if the opportunity, because like all that she knew was that she had gotten a message saying, hey, take these people from point A to B. They will pay you.
I had no idea you were.
I had no idea,
Derek,
like,
so
right?
Yeah.
That's why she was disappearing at every rest, because she had some meat in her pack and she needed to eat, but she didn't want to do it nearby because she's
fantastic.
got a persona to keep up
Ah.
that most of the people on the Shadow Road don't know about anyway. So, you know, the opportunity for fresh meat is always a good option. And she didn't know anything about how powerful you guys were. So like she was finding information. She didn't actually start respecting any of you until that first battle. During the rest. She's like, okay, maybe not food.
Well, I'm glad you didn't eat me. That would have been I would have been so surprised.
She was
how could
needling
do
you.
this to me? How can you do this to me?
That'd be great.
With Janelle and then also Cam, one of the things I learned too early on in when I would have guests come in, I would literally give them scripts. Like literally give them scripts of like, I need you to say this. This is what's gonna like, this is the direction I need you to push the party. These are the things I need you to say to have the moment that I want to craft and stuff like that. And when I started again getting away from again what you guys know of my frustrations of 5e, where like it feels like GMs are like storytellers and you guys are just along for the ride kind of, and trying to be more free form with it. I didn't want to do that again because one, it's hard on the person coming in to like hit the cues right and stuff. And two, it's not as fun for the person coming in. If I just, when I talked to Janelle, I was like, basically like, this is the kind of vibe of the character I need to fit this NPC, but you do what you want with it. Because you could have picked something besides Selvin, but stuck with the NPC, stuck with the character art and everything. But I was like, all I need, like, here's an inspiration and like the general information that you would have as your character. Like, you're supposed to do this, but you can do whatever you want in the meantime. Like, just go for it. And then I talked to Cam the same way. I was like, you're going to be, you know, this thing at the end. And at the end, we're going to have this moment where they're going to come to this realization that you've been on the other side the whole time. But between A and B, just be core and Fleshman, however you feel like playing it. And I don't know if that was better for you guys, but I think, you know, especially the people I brought on early, it probably been better for them. So something I learned to bringing in guests too.
I wasn't in her. I had the flu and was out. And fortunately, it worked out great because the session before I was taken by my patron. So it kind of made sense that I wasn't in there. But I was laying in bed, sick as a dog, and I watched this. I was watching it live. One of my favorite all-time episodes. I'm sick as a dog, like throwing up, but I'm also cracking up too. That's where the toes came from.
That's where the toes came from.
I mean, that was such an epic episode. It was so good. So good. And you killed Selvin, and that was just a great episode. I mean, your
It was fun to play.
Parts in those were such great episodes.
And we got to bring Selvin back a little bit later to give her a touch more.
Yeah.
I know you didn't come back in for it, but Selvin being able to show back up and be like, hey, I talked to my guy and here's this key. Like, you know,
go
on. You don't, your time is running out. Let's go.
Okay, I don't have much longer. Does anyone want to ask questions of me before
Did you want to talk about Beat 'em at all or any of the things?
So I guess I need to ask about that. Like, if you are interested in using Beat 'em stuff later, then like kind of I don't know. Probably not.
Well, I've got two things. One, I kind of wanted to. And this is exactly what you're saying. Is one, I kind of wanted to ask everybody where they saw their character in 5 years. Like, what's their character's goals in the next couple of years? But also, I thought it'd be a potential throw out. And I know you thought about. We talked about bringing these character concepts back into their system, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it might be fun to do a one shot, or one shots always turn into 3 shots in like a year, like an anniversary 3 shot.
That's so funny
Or
because
in-
we're
Or in 10 years when Dariana's a vampire on her own.
So that was my question: is do people's characters, and since you're leaving, you would be the first one, have like a story arc you saw your character going on from here?
In 5 years, I would assume, based off of Beatum's backstory, that he would absolutely be 100% dead. Just because that's the danger that he tends to find himself in, and the.
But he's not yet. So if not dead,
right?
Requiem.
The hate that drives Beatum inevitably would lead him to sacrifice himself to kill the fuck out of all of these people that he hates. And I think that would ultimately consume him like 100%. Like, and it's kind of funny because I always feel like I play a little bit of a reckless character, because that's part of my play style, is the bold actions breed bold responses, which are really great for a game, like.
And you've helped my game style.
Oh, well, that makes me, yeah, I'm flattered, because you're fantastic, Eric. Wow. So yeah, without going too in depth into Beatum's backstory, there's no way that Beatum does not burn out in an explosion, essentially.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if we do happen to do something, it's not going to be another campaign thing. It would be like maybe an arc, and maybe be able to do
like an anniversary in a year. I was thinking like
in a year.
Yeah, like a year, like
we can do like a 1 to 3 session.
One shot in a year.
And I definitely had plans that I wanted for level 16 to 20. If we could just kind of hit like the main story arc of that across like 1 to 3 sessions, get a good conclusion, kind of wrap up a couple of people's other things, see where characters are, see when we're going to set that. I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, let's talk about it a year from now and potentially do that. So if you don't have secrets you want to give away yet, keep them. Especially you beat them.
Away.
Yeah, but yeah. So
I can hang out for just a little longer. I kind of was holding the whole thing hostage here, so I'm done talking unless somebody wants to ask me something.
I don't think anybody met us here. I was concerned about that a while ago, like giving away any secrets about my character or whatever, but nobody here met us. Like, everybody's pretty clear to their character and the storyline, and that's awesome, because you don't have to worry about like, oh, I let this slip, and no shit. It's like,
baby beat him.
Yep, it's about time.
Hi. You got it last time. There it is.
Last time. There we go. Since he's beat him size now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're so cute. Here, let's see if you can hear everybody. You guys can say hi to him. He's done.
Hey, baby.
Hi,
buddy.
Hello.
So having him kind of along for the ride, because he's been, a little bit part of it too, like every night. So it's
we've watched him grow.
I mean, yeah, he didn't exist when we started this game.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is kind of the symbol that I have to go. So, good night to all of you, and I can't wait to rewatch the VOD so I can see all of the juicy little bits. Can you say bye, night one more time? Say night. All right.
Bye. Good to see you. Go Gunners.
Place of the end again. Do we want to take a quick break? We'll come back and then just
Yeah,
we'll
let's do a quick
we'll
break.
hit everybody. Okay, so we'll be back in just a couple minutes, everybody.
All right.
Hello and welcome back to the Adventure Archive. We finished a 2.5-year evil campaign called the Dark Kingdoms, and this is our postmortem. This is our wrap up of just questions, chats, favorite moments, all those kind of nitty bits. So one thing that we were just doing with Andy was kind of just like going to, he needed to go. So ask him questions, talk about his character a little bit. And I kind of want to do that with everybody. So why don't we kind of go around and basically if each person has questions for other people or people have questions for that person, we'll do that per character. And then kind of, but start with each character talking about, or player talking about coming into the campaign, the way that their character was supposed to go, those kind of things. And then we'll open it up to questions for and from everybody. So why don't we start with Cutter, since Beatum technically, although we heard his voice at the end, was not present at the end.
Right.
You were the only one that was there for every single bit of this adventure was Cutter the Faceless. So why don't you talk about Cutter and the campaign and stuff a little bit?
Yeah, so Cutter, if you didn't read his backstory, didn't really know much about him. He kind of had like his second life, his second chance with Rodion at the beginning of the campaign, and he felt indebted to him. Essentially, Cutter never had big aspirations to do anything, but he had a sense of duty and loyalty to this guy. And then I think once he was killed essentially by Lucan. He just kind of felt like it was a passing of the torch in a way, because he's obviously he's a relatively cold guy. He doesn't really have he doesn't really care about anybody essentially, but he has that's like I said, the sense of duty and loyalty. But what I wanted to do explicitly for character arc is I wanted the game to guide it. I did not want to have any kind of preconceived notion of where I thought the character was going to go. I think in this era of Critical Role, a lot of people think of D&D as like interactive storytelling, really, where, like you said, Ryan, that the DM has an idea of where they want things to go, and the characters are just kind of their roles in that story, right? Whereas I've been, as both of us have been diving a lot deeper into OSR, and it's really kind of opened my eyes about, DMs aren't storytellers, they are scenario designers, and that's it, right? They just give you scenarios, and then, however it plays out is up to the players. And so with Cutter's arc, I wanted to see what happened. And like, I think with Eric's character, with Sylvester, he started at the moment when he did that charm spell, or the break heart spell. That was, I think, the first.
Oh, Janelle?
Yeah. That was the first inkling of respect that Cutter had for anybody in the party. And so at that moment, he started kind of, I think, opening up, I guess, or realizing that he couldn't be sort of the lone wolf all the time. He needed a group of people. He needed a party to be successful in this thing. And then it kind of just grew from there, But I think overall, like, I didn't know where Cutter was going to go at the end. I really wanted the interactions of the story, like where not only what the plot points were happening, but like what the other characters were like and what they did. That was really important to me, because I didn't want to just kind of assume I knew how Cutter would end up at the end. Like even that last bit, like I didn't know. I was thinking about, okay, I know this is the last one. What is Cutter going to do at the end of this thing if he survives? And I was really going back and forth a lot, trying to just internalize, like, okay, from his perspective, he has Rays. He didn't even get to kill Rays, but he was kind of like beyond that, right? So Rays was the guy who essentially betrayed Cutter in the Underdark, in the Ghoul Kingdom, that and took his face essentially and wore it as a memento, or like a badge of whatever. And but Cutter kind of like he lost that. Like he didn't care anymore. It was kind of like, I don't want to say completely meaningless, but it wasn't such a big deal anymore. He'd kind of evolved as a character. And so but then in that moment I was like, oh yeah, Cutter, I had this idea where what I wanted to do is pick up my face, my old face, or what was left of it, put it on and just say, like, something like, this is suffocating. And then just basically unmask myself and it was perfect because, and I didn't know what the ending was, obviously, but Ryan, when you had, you said those words which weren't for Cutter, but it was like a perfect moment of realization when you said something like, take off your mask or something like that, because everybody was already a Derrickul, like in disguise, and that was sort of the catalyst, I guess, for that moment for Cutter to just trash his mask and like he's done with that. So
Well, one of the things during that combat too had happened. I think who dealt the killing blow to Raze? Was it Diana with a fireball, a firebolt?
I don't know if it was Sylvester or Dariana. I don't remember. You guys
I think
trashed
there
him
was
though.
fire at
I
the
think it
end.
was me. It was a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
That's
So
what it is.
basically, right from the
Which is
beginning,
a
I
great
just
spell, and I
assumed.
just gotten it. And by the way, Dariana, that's a good spell.
Yeah.
Part of that thing all I
But
want, I'm like, I've seen Dariana use this. This thing's kind of badass.
But you seem just disinterested in Raze, and I kind of got that feeling that you were above it, like there's something more
Yeah.
important in this moment, and that's why Raze, like, he started getting pissed that you were like ignoring him. He was basically like, "Look, I have your face. Why are you fucking ignoring me?" Because I don't think you even did any damage to him. So like even at the very
No.
end, he was just like at your feet, like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
um, and then because last time you encountered him was the time that you were like, fuck my duty, like I'm going for this
Yep.
guy no matter what. And
Yep.
this time you were like, fuck that guy, I'm doing what I
Yeah.
need to do. And that's why I even had the face kind of shrivel up and just go on its own, because it was like I had this feeling like as a GM and like that this is like past you and beneath you, and this is almost an opportunity to just be like, you don't even really get to interact with this thing because it's done already. Like, so when it just like shriveled up and you didn't get a chance to interact with it, it was kind of, and I didn't know how you'd react to that, to be like, I didn't get a moment with it. But I felt like if you really wanted a moment with it, you would have interacted more. So the idea that he kind of like died at your feet and you were just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And the face kind of shriveled away and just kind of went away was kind of just like the, all right.
Yeah, I purposely tried to resist the idea, or like crafting a story, right? I don't want to do that. I wanted, and honestly, I don't think it could have worked out any better. Like it was perfect. His face was destroyed. He ignored Ray's. He went in. He, the line you spoke to the rest of the party was total subtext for Cutter, and it worked out. And then he obviously, he arced, but he didn't arc in the way that he did not sort of ascend to this, take this land and this title and whatever. He's still what he is,
You got like a almost like the guy from Drive moment where like it all came together and then you just like drove off into the sunset kind of thing versus like like raising it all up. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you does anyone have any questions about like Cutter or moments that you guys had with him or anything?
So many that we can't even tackle.
A couple.
I was just kind of curious, like
one or two.
I remember thinking like this is good because we didn't like we knew each other's names and stuff, but I'm pretty sure we were like even at Andy's house and like Cutter's like I leave. Like we were doing something, he's just like I'm out of here, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a different campaign.
Yeah.
And like, was there a specific thing that Cutter was doing for Road John at that point that we didn't know about?
No, I don't think so. I think like again, like he's not. That's one misconception, and I feel like a lot of people, we learned what it meant to be an evil party, right?
Okay.
We're kind of only together. I mean, maybe not all of us, but we're only together for circumstance, for duty, for whatever we're in, right? It has nothing to do with. So when you play D&D, everyone's like, oh, we're all buds, we're all like adventuring, we're all heroes, we're all going to save each other, and so that is the idea that people have, and so they think like, oh, why did this guy just bail? Like this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, you're dealing with a different mindset here, So
well, that's how I, when I was sitting down and even debating and like talking about running an Evo campaign, that's how I basically was like, how can you keep these people together? Because it's not just going to be like, you guys are all great role players, and you can't just be like, at some point the RP is going to be like, I just don't like, this isn't work for me. You know what I mean? So how do you keep everyone together? And how I basically decided right from the beginning, because I gave you guys a sheet that like one of you filled out. and it said right at the top, you all work for Rojan. Like you owe something to Rojan. What you're doing, like period. That's the beginning. Like you work for him, you do what he fucking says. And to have someone who's more powerful than you, that you owe something to, that you're working to, that tells you to go do something, regardless of the things that you personally want to do, it's the jobs to go do it. And people can like sway a little bit on that line, but still have to follow in that kind of direction. And I felt that, especially as an evil party, that's one of the best ways to do it, is to have something that like that people have to have a more powerful boss, is what it comes down to, that is telling you to do something and you can't fuck around.
Well,
know?
I always
Too
kind
much.
of look at it too, like, you know, your Nazi SS guys still went out and had beers with buddies. You know?
Yeah.
As
Yeah, bigger, better,
fucked up as
evil,
that
yeah.
sounds,
Yeah.
they did, and they justified what they were doing.
Yeah.
And there's a justification. You have to find your justification. And then within that, you find like-minded people that share your justifications, or at least some facsimile thereof, and you interact with them. And there's your group, you know. I mean,
Exactly.
your lone Unabomber types or whatever, but there's lots of evil people that act in concert, and it happens throughout history.
Well, that was
So how do they?
that
How
was
do they
another
do it?
part. Yeah, that was another part of this sheet that I talked about early too. Is just like not everyone's the fucking Joker. Like there are grays. There's a whole lot of grays. There's people that like maybe aren't even that bad of a guy. They just have a bad boss. And there's people that are complete fucking psychopaths and do the in between. Because like Tone Taker is like not even that bad of a dude. He just
He
liked
wasn't that
to
bad of a dude,
hated
which is why I
dwarves.
wanted to change
Yeah,
that, because I'm like,
yeah,
that
but
is-
it worked.
I'm in an evil campaign. I just take advantage.
Yeah. But it still worked. But did
Oh.
any other color questions
I
for
got
Cutter or
I got
Jason?
something
Did you
to
have
say.
questions?
Yeah, or not even a question or anything, just a statement is, I've always loved Jason's characters. You always go into this weird place that's like, even our non-evil campaign, which was in Midgard, with your
Omen.
Yeah, Toman, the bard.
Oh my God,
the
Toman
gear,
is such
the
a good
gear
character.
forward
He-
guard.
It's funny you say that,
Oh.
Eric, 'cause
Yeah.
great
I wasn't
character.
part of that.
Your character concepts are always so great, and that's
Yeah.
all. That's all I got.
Well,
That's
thanks.
all I want to say.
Yeah, I found myself
love
like
your
I
character
asked Jason to
concepts.
share tone.
You always find a unique aspect to come at a character from, and I love that and appreciate the hell out of that.
Yeah, I'd say my one regret with Cutter would be that he was a little stereotypical in kind of the brooding lone wolf rogue, which isn't.
Yes,
Oh,
but
hey, we
you
get.
still played it without being stereotypical.
Well, that's good.
I
I'm
know
glad.
exactly what you're saying,
I
and the fact, yeah, I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but you still pulled it
yeah.
without the cliche.
But the thing with the cliches and the stereotypes is like starting that way and then moving into your own personal arc is
Right.
is a
But-
good
and
arc to go.
You did have character development, and yeah,
Yeah, hardcore.
but
And thank you so much for the raid, Dean
before that,
Susan. We
though,
really
even before
appreciate
the
it.
character development, you still, who's leaving?
Oh no,
They're
Dean
coming.
Susan just
Like,
raided,
somebody's
so thank
leaving.
you. No, someone came in. Thank you for the raid of
Hey,
8. We
welcome.
really appreciate it. We're doing our campaign.
Your
recap.
sobriety is leaving.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna. So Jason, I was gonna tell you something just
no,
funny.
my
Like in my
sobriety
life.
left.
So I
Uh,
cook a lot at home, and one of the Cutterisms that has entered my life in the last 2 years is like if I'm making something that's like steak or whatever, I'll look at my wife. I'll go, "Fat is flavor," and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
man.
"No,
All the
don't worry
fat
about it."
soluble
That wasn't Cutter,
vitamins are in
that
there,
was
man. You got to
Jason.
get them.
That's a total Cutter.
Oh, yeah.
Me.
It's true. It's true.
And I guess one last
So
thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, yeah.
I was gonna say, I'd say, I know you asked about favorite campaign moment. I think probably it's a tie between the zombie thing and then the Alcava fight. But I would have to pick Alcava because it was a very personal thing for Cutter, and he was kind of like last man standing, and there was a great conflict between him and Cordelia. And I remember, like, again, I kind of regret doing this, but I wrote up sort of, we ended on a cliffhanger, and I wrote up what I imagined Cutter would say in that moment. Past to Ryan, he's like, maybe ditch the C word.
Just a
Just
tiny
ditch the
bit.
C word
Just
here.
rub it back just
And
Whoa, whoa,
one.
whoa.
Pump the
One.
brakes.
yeah,
on it.
pump
Still
the
have it?
brakes. What?
Do you still have it?
Yeah, it's probably on Google Docs somewhere. Yeah, I have it.
You know,
I can send it to you if you want to see it.
I want to see that.
Don't
Um,
post it. Send it to him.
it
Yeah.
it played out pretty much just like that, but it was a cool
Yeah,
moment, and
just
I
slightly different vocabulary.
That
Yeah.
was
Right.
that's
Cool
what I'm saying
friend.
is that was still without after pumping the brakes. So it was still like,
Yeah.
and you could. I know Sam was
key
like
moment for the campaign. for
Sam was
sure.
not used to that kind of role playing.
Yeah.
I think, and she was a
Yeah,
little.
we know.
Well, and it also kind of like it put in stark contrast the difference between someone who was like, I don't really care about the mission versus someone I care about it way too much. And I think both of you had a moment after that, or at least a divergence a little bit, kind of a look more towards like, okay, I get that the mission's important versus maybe the mission's like maybe I can chill a tiny bit. And it was a good moment where things kind of started. I feel like after Alcava is when the character development for a lot of people really started to take off.
Yeah.
So
I-
and
We're all
Alcava was-
figuring it out, you know. We're all
I
figuring it
felt
out.
that
Yeah.
during the fight in the caves with the horde. Actually, I felt that right afterwards when I wanted to kill the guy or the sergeant that
Captain Rain.
Yeah, Rain. Captain
Rain. When Tongue Taker wanted to kill him, and actually Cordelia didn't. And I'm
I wanted
like,
to bone
this
him,
guy's
though.
incompetent.
Yeah.
And Beatum was behind me. Beatum's like, yeah,
You guys killed him at the same time.
you're good.
Yeah.
Killed that fucker.
Yeah.
And,
And he like ice beamed him while you hit him with a sword, and it was just
Yeah.
like, oh, well, sucks to suck.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
was kind of a coming of age around when both those happened within a couple episodes of each other. I felt like those were coming of age episodes of running an evil campaign.
yeah. Yeah.
That definitely the Alcava and the caves. I think both those were definitely coming of age. Like, how do you play in an evil campaign? And
For sure. I definitely think, especially after the zombie one, like it really, I kind of say it set a tone. And then Alcava, I think everyone really grasped it at that point.
Yeah.
And it really took off from there.
Yeah.
So Victor, I know we talked about Dre a little bit and that how, again, I wanted to kill him, but he died right before I could. And then we brought in Victor. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, or just talk about Victor and trying to be like being such a nice guy and then trying to be in an evil campaign? Because I know like it wasn't easy. Yeah, it doesn't come as easy as like me or Jason.
Rewinding back a little bit, I think that I had only met most of you guys at it was like that event at Andy's house where it was like, and I sat right next to Janelle, and I think that's the first time we kind of became friends.
Oh, you're talking about running Source of Victories, Necropolis
Yeah.
of the Mailed Fist?
Yeah, it was so
One
fun.
of my favorite D&D moments of all
and
time.
yeah,
period.
between that session with Janelle and
Versus in the
Sylvester,
chat.
yeah, made me want to try out a warlock for the first time in my life. But I think what happened was when I joined this, because I really hadn't been in a campaign since I was a little kid, like since 1984. And I was like, oh, this is 5th edition. I'd played a bunch of 5th edition, but all kind of one shots. And so I made the big mistake initially of choosing, I went like against what I prefer every choice of the way. So like the race, I picked the thing that was least appealing to me. The class, I picked the thing that was least appealing to me because I just thought this would really push me out of my comfort zone, not realizing that just being in the campaign would push me so far out of my comfort zone in a really good way. And so part of me just thinks that because I kind of didn't like the character a ton, I guess, like you could feel it, right? And everybody was so good. And like I definitely did not plan on getting Dre killed, but I definitely had played D&D a lot with dungeon masters who were too nice, for lack of a better word. Like I have more fun with Ryan because I've learned so much about like why the mechanics matter. And like I said, like I know that the DMs I had played with before probably would say, oh, I think what you mean is you would disengage. But Ryan was like, so what do you do? And I was like, I scream run, which I think is the beer can, right? Is like Eric made it. And Eric was famous in our real sessions for, showing up with like a bag of candy that looked like tongues and just throwing it on the table and then eating the yellow tongues like in front of us. And then he showed up with beers that were handmade beers. And then I'm pretty sure did like a 1 hour RP funeral for this character that kind of nobody likes.
Chuck your body over a
Yeah,
cliff.
which
Everyone
had-
loved Dre.
Everybody loved Dre. Well, Dre and Tongue Taker had a connection.
Correct. Well, because they were both a
Yeah.
little too right. Like
Because
they
he was
were like a
Matt. He was
buddy
Matt. He
film.
was like a very nice
Well, who
guy.
doesn't fucking love Matt? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean.
But-
yeah.
and so-
even as an evil Sylvester, I'm like, I'll kill all these fuckers, but call that Victor.
So I remember sitting at the table though, like, you know, Ryan rolls a bag of dice, and clearly like it's a point over Max, which I thought was like, it was like, holy shit. And then I'm kind of a person that like, I love watching sports when it's like a really close game and the team loses and like what they do with that. And so I think I met with Ryan probably the week later at his apartment. And then I had said, Ryan had his Dungeon Master's Guide. And I was like, well, you know what would be interesting is like either this anti-paladin or the death cleric. Because I was like, I really enjoy like support characters. And I think I was trying to make this ranger a thing that it wasn't. And Ryan's just like, dude, you could be a death cleric. I fucking love death clerics. And so I was like, okay, here we go. And then I was either going to do the paladin or the cleric. And then just the cleric made a lot more sense. And the Midgard book is so interesting. And so literally it was like one paragraph about the Calder. And then like a picture that looked kind of like, you know, this weird bloody dude with antlers that I think we said it was, what would my voice sound like? It was the actor.
Oh, Christopher Walken.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I came out with that crazy, stupid, like weird Eastern European fake Russian
Loved
voice.
it. Love it.
And,
yeah.
and so, yeah, so for me, what was nice about that was, and I guess you guys probably didn't pick up on this, but like Victor quit praying like the last few, like when Beatum disappeared, Victor kind of lost his religion a little bit. And
I
like,
noticed that, and I meant to ask, that was actually a question I had for you.
yeah, that was very intentional. So like when he popped like he had shriveled the guy with the necro bitch slap and then popped whatever was left of his skull off and like kind of desecrated the altar. That was like a really big deal for Victor. And I would assume that the moment he heard, you know, that curmudgeon-y, like ornery voice in his mind, like Victor probably felt that like, oh, like my prayer has been answered. Like Beatum is like back on the radar. Like I don't know where the fuck he is, but he's back on the radar. The game, you know, the game is afoot, kind of thing.
Because not too long after the princess incident, maybe once in Zobek, maybe until this last.
Yeah, whenever we had an
No.
overnight, like he would get skulls of some sort, and
Okay.
then even like one time,
Yeah.
like
A lot
even
of
if
that
it
was
just-
dropped in the RP, so I was like, I haven't
Well-
trained a long time because
Yeah.
that was my first move.
Was to while he was praying, shooting to his head. One of the last times I remember you praying prior to it too was when you tried to reach out to Chernbog and failed, and it like crushed the skull.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it failed because you were being weak.
yep.
Yeah, you asked for, I don't remember what it was, but you asked for like, basically it was like, do you want power? Or do you want to help your friends? And you were like, I want to help my friends. And he was like,
Yeah.
piece of shit. Like, it's
But
not,
it
it's
was-
not
I
the right
mean,
answer.
I do think it's what, like, that flawed
Victor
guy. It's
would've
the same
done.
reason he left the Calder, was like he wouldn't kill his orphaned parent. You know, the people that had adopted him.
Right. But I think you got the help for the friends, but you also got
I
a
paid a
massive
price.
wave of like disappointment. Yeah, from Chernbog.
sure.
And I'll tell you right now, if you would have done that again
Yeah.
and chose again, your powers would have been gone. I'd already written that down. Like he would completely withdrawn your cleric abilities from him,
Yeah.
and you would have ended up just being like, we put out like multi-class you into like a fighter or something like that, because he would have completely withdrawn it.
Yeah.
So
You were very clear about that, I think, like with hints at least.
yeah, I think pretty quickly in the episode too. It was after the gosh, was that after you guys ran from all those little children?
We were
like,
chasing
evil children on
Avdos.
the river.
We were chasing
yeah.
Avdos.
Oh yeah. Does anybody have any other questions for Victor? The thing is, we know he didn't have a big backstory, so Beatum became a big part of that. But do you feel like, and you didn't really get as much, I guess, of a character arc, kind of, because you didn't really have I didn't really have daggers to work into your story, and so I tried to hit everybody's daggers a little bit, but you didn't really have one.
I have
Do you
I have
feel
a
like that
question.
was an issue in your arc, or do you feel like you felt comfortable with the way that Victor kind of
No,
created that on its own?
You know, I think I was super comfortable because Victor was a person that he hadn't seen a lot of the world. Now he's seen a ton of it. He had learned about all these things that could be strong that weren't like traditional strong. And then the one thing I thought was interesting is that Corin kind of shows up at the end, who's like probably like the perfection of like a fighter strength who actually uses his brain, his brawn, has like all the tools and weapons. And at that point, the cleric, like Victor knew like it didn't make sense to like stand shoulder to shoulder with Corin because they were not the same thing. And like that, the banish made more sense, and the necro thing and all that. So, and healing Corin.
I think that's something that got lost though, was I feel like Sylvester and Victor, and I would have come clean a long time ago, but
Being in his head.
so, yeah. So after the Margrave thing is when they jumped in his head. Like first, actually, it's probably the second session
Yeah.
that Sylvester was introduced, but they kind of connected in the town where I forget the town where the city where they took the princess.
I thought we took her back to. We took her to
What was-
Morgau.
You guys were in Paranelia.
Paranelia.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
did a lot of offline RP. And I feel like they had kind of made a connection during that time. And Sylvester probably would have come clean, but after that, is when we first started streaming. And when we first started streaming, our RP definitely took a little bit of a dip. It came back, but our
Were
Well,
we
we had
on
to get used
stream?
to. We had to get used to.
yeah, it was a new thing.
process,
It's like there's
yeah.
a fucking global pandemic, and we're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, what do we do? What are we gonna?
Were we on stream when we got to Zobek and Hamish had all the names?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I remember for Victor, like Victor is a little bit of like
Yeah.
what you see is what you get, and so for him, the whole idea of man, this guy's got different names, different characters. Wherever he
But
goes, he does what he
during
needs.
Paranelia, we kind of hung out. We walked the city
Yeah.
together, and we did like an off. And this is when we were still tabletop, but we did a bunch of RP for everybody that was doing their own things. In our,
We had the kabombs.
yeah, and I felt like they kind of were starting to connect a little bit, but then pandemic hit and whatever, and I feel like that got shuffled aside a tiny bit, but I felt like they were starting to connect, and then it kind of disappeared because he was kind of about ready to come clean not too long afterwards about like, hey, sorry, I did this thing, and then it ended up not being like the last session that it came
Because we
clean.
thought we were gonna die.
Which fit Sylvester too. He's like, I'm not feeling it yet. So
Mm.
So I got a question for Matt.
Yeah.
It's kind of a two-parter. So because you're not even remotely on the spectrum of evil, you're the polar opposite of evil in real life. What did you have to constantly like actively think about Victor's decisions during the campaign to make sure it wasn't you making those? And then the second part of the question is, were there any decisions that Victor made that you regret?
Interesting. So I think on the first part, like I just viewed it as I had that little block of what Chernobog. There's like it's like a Midgard does a really good job, and I just had it. Actually, I can show you. So like behind all my features and stuff, I just had a one-page kind of. I guess you can't really see it, but
I can't
Yeah.
see
it
it.
says Chernobog, and then it just says Chernobog is the embodiment of all mortal fear. His shape is variable and horrifying. He resembles blah blah. He's the master of the dead, not through respect but by compulsion. And then talks about his subdomains and stuff like that. So I would just kind of filter it. I think like,
So this was like
It-
your pre-session mantra every time to remind yourself, or what?
just to like, okay, here's the motivation. And then for regrets.
Yeah, like is there anything that Victor did that you're like, fuck, it would have been so
it was
much
kind
better?
of it kind of became like a funny thing, but Ryan had given us like a pep talk where he's like, when it's a combat, you should like hit hard and like end it fast. but then it became like a kind of a running joke where like Victor was always hitting a thing that had almost no hit points and then just dropping the bomb on them, which I'm pretty sure I did even in that finale episode, because you could
Oh my
see
God,
the
the
little
guy-
thing. Yeah, you could see the
Well,
little bar.
Who's the
But
guy
I
that
was
dropped
like-
out of the sky that Jason threw in the thing?
Yeah. So to me, like it's funny because you and I had talked about this a little bit about like how I really enjoy how different players can kind of like elevate each other and kind
Yeah.
of like use the mechanics a little bit. And so I did enjoy like intentionally doing the thing that made less sense because it kind of like let things unravel a little bit. And I think I learned that from you guys. Like that's definitely not a thing that I did
Tongue
2.5
Taker.
years ago.
Tongue Taker did that a little bit. And
Yeah. I was gonna say that's definitely an Eric and Andy kind of just like,
Yeah.
how can I stir the fucking pot a little bit here thing. So give me the red card. I'll take the red card, kind of. So,
yeah. Yeah. And
Cool.
I had like
And-
this one YouTube video of this Russian guy teaching you how to speak Russian. And so I would
That's where you
listen
got
to it
Christopher
for like 2
Walken?
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so I could.
Yeah. But it was great. I love Victor. I think Victor's a great character. And we all know Victor was an exponentially like just better character than Dre, in the sense that I feel like you were able to embrace his character a lot more than like the struggle that Dre kind of was. I think he was just too convoluted. And Victor had this like simplicity to him that I think was like incredibly well done, and you embraced and then really were able to expand upon throughout the entire arc, because without a big backstory, it all becomes emergent storytelling. So the relationship with Beatum, the relationship with the party, your relationship with Chernobog, that's not something you wrote before. That's something that emerged, and it was such a fun narrative to
And I feel like
watch and
probably
see.
you guys learned a lot about the Kareev, right? Like about the Black Dog Curse.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know about kind of
The sash and everything.
sash
and,
and the
Horses.
ornamental.
The whole nine.
He's
Horses.
It was
what
great.
he was what I kind of wanted Tongue Taker to be, but I just didn't pull it off. And you did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mine was more, no, you nailed it.
We all loved the shit out of Tongue Taker, and I think it would have been great the whole way through, but I think you were just like, I want to be more fucking evil than this. Let's
I did.
fucking go.
You don't get many chances to do
No.
that. In a regular party.
What I thought was
Exactly.
kind of interesting about Tongue Taker too was that it was kind of the death of like old tropes, right? Like, because like D&D kind of is like, oh, it's a green monster, like we must beat it up, unless maybe it's a half orc, and then maybe it can be our friend. But like Tongue Taker was kind of just like an old school like bad guy, but he wasn't really bad, right? Like he kind of dwelled in a gray area where he grew up in Trollheim, and that's what they do.
Yeah, he's more culturally evil than evil. It was
Yeah.
like, I'm kind of a might is right guy, and I want to inflict pain on a lot of fucking people. So
But then why don't you run with that? Why don't you just go? Yeah. Why don't we just go to Eric and like just talk about Tongue Taker and Sylvester, and if anyone has questions, and then we'll go to Jeff.
Okay, so anybody watching, I threw both backstories on our Discord, and you can kind of see the difference between the two. Tongue Taker is more just culturally evil. He was raised in a tribe of invaders. So it wasn't that he wanted to hurt people for the pleasure of hurting people. It was just kind of what they did. It's how they survived. Hunters, if you want to call them that. And I don't know, he was a barbarian, and I enjoyed playing him, and we had a lot of fun moments with him. But I kind of realized that, I don't know, you don't get many options or times to play in an evil campaign where you can embrace that type of character. So I wanted to go into something more. And
that's why you reached out to me and you were like, hey, you said, I just listen, I love Tongue Taker, he's great, but I can't make him the evil that I want to be. And one of the things that you specifically said was, I don't know when I'm going to get an option to run a character like this again.
Right.
Can I do something different? And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll murder the shit out of you. I don't have a single problem with that. And then, like you said, you didn't even know when you were going to die.
Right.
You were just like, at some point, kill me and I got a backup. And that's why I set up that whole tree and shambling mound situation. and I really wanted you to have.
Well, it worked out
Dre-
great too, because I ended
Yeah.
up on watching by myself, and I kind of did what I don't even feel like I acted like. Normally Tongue Taker makes bad decisions, but I don't even think that was a bad decision.
Oh.
I didn't know it was
You
coming.
were on
back.
watch.
We kind of
Yeah.
left it open. It wasn't like, hey, we're gonna kill you next episode. It was kind of like, okay, we'll work
Just
this
whenever.
out.
Yeah.
And,
I don't even think it was the next episode. I think it might have been the one after that. And
Probably,
you guys were
yeah.
just on watch and you heard a noise, so you went to investigate it, and then shit just hit the fan. And it just, and you had a moment, which is something that, like, again, like if I had actually got around to killing Dre, I wanted to give Dre a moment, but he
had
died
the
before I
moment.
could.
No, he had
The
the moment with Tongue Taker
run!
got,
Yeah.
which Tongue Taker mimicked. The run.
Yeah.
Dre got the scream run, which was on the Dead Dre IPA label I made, and then it said run across the top, which is what Tongue Taker mimicked when he was getting swallowed by the shambling mound. Run. Don't follow me. Well, as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh shit, this is it. There's no way I'm getting out of this. But it was interesting because I started thinking about playing an evil campaign and character tropes and types and whatever. And I'm like, dumb barbarian that makes bad decisions, I could play in anything. So I started thinking I want to play a more manipulative character. Nobody knows exactly where they're coming from, kind of play with the lines a little bit. And that was kind of an interesting thing. Take two is I wanted a trickster character. So I had a character concept in mind. And I think this is a great way to approach character development is I had the idea of the character, who I wanted to play, and then try to match race and class with it. So I started like just scouring and I'm like, oh, trickster cleric. Started looking into it. I'm like, oh, doesn't work. And just kind of mixing and matching to come up with the idea of who I wanted to play first. Then finding race and class after the fact was kind of fun, because prior to that, I'd taken a long hiatus. I mean, I played D&D original, white box, red box, all that, but I had a long hiatus. And so as I got back into it, I was trying to burn through races and characters like, oh, haven't played this yet. Let's play that. So this was fun where I was like, no, I want to play this character. How do I make him? Which was a nice.
Could you have made Sylvester as like a different thing? Or do you think
No.
Warlock was perfect?
I think race and class was perfect for what I was looking for. And I had explored multiple classes because I wanted to be kind of a trickster, evil trickster, manipulative, and I had explored a lot of classes and race mixes, and I think I kind of hit it.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
There it is.
Hey.
Fun. Oh, and
Nice.
artwork by Jason. By the
Yeah.
way. There
Well,
it is.
I mean, yeah, I
Dead
just
Dre IPA.
I
There it
just
is.
put horns on I think those are like
Blo-
Maleficent horns on the
Yeah.
from the Blob movie
the
from
Blob.
the
Yeah, yeah,
90s or
Blob.
whatever.
So
So good.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Sylvester was fucking fantastic. I mean, I think everyone would agree that he was probably the most fucked up character on the show, realistically. I mean, there's
For sure.
a lot of stuff we don't know about Beat him, but like, I mean,
he went
the
out of his
scene
way.
with
That's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
he'd go out of his
Yeah.
way and complicate things to get his
He'd be like,
evil.
hold on a sec.
Yeah, his evil.
Yeah.
off.
scene
I'm
at the
gonna
tavern.
go drop this
Yeah.
note so the wolf
I got
can
some
eat
evil
shit
all
to
these
do.
dudes.
Well,
And
I don't
so,
know
do
if
you want to talk? Do you want to talk at all about what happened when everyone else was on the Shadow Road and with Annie?
Sure. You're gonna have to refresh my memory a tiny bit, but yes.
So when everyone
lost
else was
those
on the
brain
Shadow
cells.
Road, you went through
Oh.
a portal.
And that was
And-
the first time I actually found out who my patron was.
Oh.
So if you look at my backstory, and I kind of, part of my thing when I was writing my backstory is I don't want to pick my patron. I want Ryan to. So I kind of left it up to DM. I'm like, no, I did this kind of fucked up thing. And then I get approached by the familiar, which becomes Annie, but as a harbinger of or a messenger of my patron, who I don't know who it is, but that offers me this deal. Like, hey, we can do this and this for you if you kind of do this and this. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do that. But they kind of kept it a secret and didn't actually tell me who it was. So when I got separated from the party and went through, when we're going to the Shadow Road, and that's where Janelle showed up as Sylvan, one of my favorite episodes.
Not Today, Shadow Fae. Not Today. Yeah.
Today.
So it was 45 play sessions before you even knew who your patron was. And when you met your patron, it was Parzalon.
Yeah.
Who's basically the god of like deceit and trickery. He's this very weird kind of like lion-headed creature that rides a giant bear and has a trumpet and all sorts of things. And you actually you first saw your brother, because if you read the backstory, you'll see that Hamish's brother is in there. But when you followed through the portal, you disappeared and went into this realm of Parzalon. And then the brother just turned into one of Parzalon's like kind of like minions, is just lion-headed women, and kind of called you forth and were basically like, "You done a good job, kid. You're really fucking it up out there, and that's all I want is just chaos, just as much chaos as you can create." And he gave you a boon, kind of, which was an upgrade to Annie, which turned
I viewed
her,
as a downgrade to Annie.
which he thought you might, but it was something interesting to fuck around with you.
Yeah.
She was much better in combat, which you didn't really use her a lot for, like exponentially better in combat. Like she would have been actually, lasted longer, hit harder, more attacks, everything, but lost her invisibility, which made it more
Sylvester's whole
interesting.
game wasn't combat.
So why do you think he
More
did it?
like sneaky, set shit up. And when I totally get it. And I was like, oh, fuck. All right. I get why he's doing this. Not you, Parcelon. He thinks he's giving me an upgrade, but that's not how Sylvester rolls. And yeah. And then I tried to still work her in and do stuff with her. But yeah, his MO, it didn't.
But then the last time you went to sleep before all of it hit the fan, you woke up after having like a kind of a brief vision
with a rod in my hand,
with a rod of Parzalon, and one word echoing in your brain, which was chaos. And I would say if we had continued the campaign, you would have got a big old boon after what you fucked around in Vandekoelen did, because I mean, a massacre in the Fleshling Quarter, like the whole waterway, the whole like waterfront on fire from like homeless, like beggar ghouls and stuff. Like, and that was before anything that you guys actually did, which was, murder the leader of the city and his minions and everything. So I think chaos was
awesome that
achieved.
You did that, because I used to do that type of thing a lot. And I hadn't in a while, and it was a nice little reminder of what Sylvester was all about.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was great. And I love Sylvester was such a great character. The way he was brought in was really fun, with everyone was all like tied up because you guys had all fallen victim to that, like those weird Margrave creatures, sleep stuff. And you woke up and there was just some random dude there. And it's like, oh, you guys got caught too? You want to just murder everybody? And all of you were like, oh, yep.
Yeah, that was pretty
murdered everybody. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Sylvester as a character? I'm gonna call you Selvin.
Yeah, it works. I answered to both. So more to Eric as a player when playing Sylvester, your entire theme is chaos. And so when you were deciding what to do, did you just like trust your fellow players when you threw something out there? Or did you go through a filter when deciding, yeah, no, this won't throw too big a wrench into plans?
That's a great question. Both. Sometimes I'd have an idea that I'm like, oh, this is going to be epic and I have to do this, regardless of wrench. Other times it was, I would definitely take him to, because he's also he was for hire. So he has a job to do as well, which is, I think, part of the reason, and never even actually really approached Cutter. So his character arc when we first were introduced was, hey, I can get us out of this. Let's kill these fuckers, whatever. But then it's like, okay, I know I'm disassociated. So he's looking for his end. Even though he could have just said, hey, Rodion sent me, but that's just not the way he works. Which would have been a really easy end. Like, Rodion sent me to come figure, help you guys out, whatever. But he doesn't like honesty. So he didn't do it that way. So he decided to look around, figure out what he's going to do, ended up trying to manipulate Victor. Played on that for a little while, and they had a connection. He was going to come clean, didn't. Kind of always admired Cutter because of his sense of loyalty and willing to do what needs to be done for the job. But I don't know, he just never really trusts anybody. And
I completely forgot that maybe this is just a trope I frequently use, is to like, secret guy comes in to infiltrate the party and gets revealed later that you worked for Rojan, and Rojan didn't trust the party at all and actually had reached out to you, because I think you're in Zobek, and was like, hey, I'm gonna pay you a bunch of money. I need you to go make sure these fuckers aren't fucking around.
Right.
And that's why you infiltrated the party to begin with. You weren't just some random guy. You were there
Right.
on purpose.
I
And it was
there on
revealed
purpose.
later, which is exactly what we did with Corin. Maybe that's just in my brain, because I've always wanted to run. I've, in multiple occasions, created characters who were not who they said they were and were eventually going to reveal themselves as actually the bad guy. And I guess I just keep projecting that on.
Well, and then they all found out when we finally showed up to Rodion after the job, and he's like, Hamish, and everybody knew me as Sylvester, and they're like, oh, what the fuck?
And then in
Yeah,
comes
that's
Lucan,
great.
and like,
Yeah.
you know, I
But
think
I
everyone
think-
forgot pretty quick.
Yeah, so I think, as again, character arcs and whatever, I think a lot, like at first it was like, these guys are kind of fucking incompetent, to be perfectly honest. That's how he viewed it all, and that's why came up with the plan to get the princess and all this. Was like, these guys are bumbling buffoons, but slowly learned to trust them, and also realize that what he wants to accomplish and what he wants to do helps to have some allies.
Yeah.
Whether they know your true intentions or not, it helps to have allies.
Do you feel like you had do you feel like your arc, as far as the campaign goes, not the character in the world, do you feel like you got what you wanted from Sylvester, and that there was like enough of a closure for you with your character?
Yes and no. So this last arc in particular was very personal. He was born in Krakovar, which is what this was kind of all about a little bit. Is, the king was dead. They're getting his brother there, who were in exile because Krakovar had been overthrown, which was where he was born, because his mother was raped by a vampire. Not the typical. A lot of Dampiers were groomed to be Dampier, but he wasn't. So he hates Krakovar, and he hates the rulership there. So the whole thing with going to rescue this guy, he wants to rescue him and torture the fuck out of him and kill him himself. And actually, as this all started unfolding, just to be, if we're going on a lot further, I had like different ideas in my head of, they have a niece. He's thinking maybe propose, throw out a thing to Lucan and say, hey, why don't I go marry her, rule Krakovar as a shadow puppet kind of thing. We'll raise a fake army, go back into Krakovar, take it over, you retreat, because everybody knows the Ghoul Imperium's in shambles right now, so we can scare you off, but I'll run it shadow government, married to her, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe we can eventually sucker Dorn again. And then we strike. And so he has all kinds of political ambitions.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question with
wants the world to burn.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, because I guess my question with Avgost is the people that destroyed Krakovar was the ghouls and the vampires.
Right.
And so the fact that Avgost and the wife of the dead king were actively trying to get Krakovar back from the vampires.
Right.
So what was the beef with Avgost then?
Oh, well, they're trying to get it back, but they didn't. So before, they never protected my family. And then even after my family was abused, did nothing. So it's like, fuck them, fuck everybody, pardon my language.
Yeah.
But no, I don't like you because you let this all happen and didn't do a dang thing about it, and screw you. So world needs to burn. That's kind
and you did. I mean, you did a good fucking job. I'll say that. Like, the world needs to burn seems like a pretty common thread throughout the whole thing.
But he's got bigger aspirations. He wants to sucker everybody into a big world conflict. That's his.
Gotcha. Well, you were definitely on the way, and the Ghoul Imperium is definitely going to be very interesting going forward. If there was like a postmortem for what happened there, Jess, you were not an original character actually in the campaign. You came on right before. I know we keep talking about Alcava. Sister Alcava was a kind of a side mission for the party where there was this blood priestess of Morena who had, kind of stopped contacting the church, and they're like, well, you're on the way that way anyway. Could you just like stop by this temple and just kind of let us know what's going on? And when the party showed up, they saw this woman battling this undead. It wasn't a troll. It was an ogre.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was you. So why don't you talk about Dariana a little bit and Brian and her arc and just coming into the campaign late and all that stuff.
Yeah. I think I came in because Andy was gone, right?
Yeah. You were gonna be like a quasi substitute character for maybe like 6 or 7 sessions while he was out. Yeah.
But then the party asked me to stay, and I was like, no, I'm gonna keep going. And then Ryan pulls me aside and he's like, do you want to stay? And I was like, sure. And so I turned the horse around and came trotting back. I was like, yeah, I'll stay. Yeah.
I remember that exact time too. We're like, stay. And like, nah, I'm out. And then
because I think there was like in real life, I think there was a time thing where it was just like, no, like you were only going to stay for these couple of sessions till Andy comes back. And then I realized after they kept saying stay, we took a break, and I was like, we definitely have enough seats at the table. Like, I didn't even think about it, but if you want to stay, like, fucking definitely stay. And you're like, okay. So
yeah, you were like, yeah, we can have 6 party members, 6 or 5. And then of course I bring Brian in and make it like even more.
Like 8 at one point.
Yeah, so Dariana, she didn't really have anything to do with the party coming in, so I kind of just had to make up her story, and she was kind of like a lone wolf. Killed her sister for power. Her whole goal is like to get more blood magical items and become like the most powerful blood mage, and she was going to Alcava's to look for blood magical items when she ran into this ogre and then ran into this party, and I guess just decided, other than Ryan inviting me to stay, that they could help her on her search for more items and maybe learn a thing or two from this evil party on how to become like a better blood mage, I guess. And so yeah, she went into this Alcava fight, almost died, made it out alive. It kind of helped fused the party a little bit, kind of made her trust them a little bit more. And her whole goal of like getting blood magical stuff was kind of derailed when her like prized possession, this blood book that she killed her sister for, was taken from her by, oh god, I forget his name, her arch
Timbor?
nemesis, Timbor. And then her goal kind of just became, well, she was a little depressed, but then her goal kind of just became like, get the book back. And in the book's absence, she kind of found solace in Brian. And she got the necklace to make Brian and the Alcava fight. And made Brian, formed a connection with Brian along the way, kind of like formed a connection with Victor through his evil kindness. And I kind of wish I had killed Brian in the end, just because it would have been like this badass like twist. But at the same time, she was kind of like a lone wolf, killed her sister for power. It's very selfish, and in a way, choosing not to kill Brian was like the less selfish route. And so in a way, like that was kind of an arc.
I agree.
And I am kind of justifying it to myself to like make
Can I
myself
give you
feel
some-
better.
I still
about
think it
my
would have been
choices.
so good.
It would have been great. However, the thing Sylvester, because I always tried to view the other characters in the party, how Sylvester would like, because he was always trying to take stock of who's who and what are their motives,
Right.
and how can I manipulate them. Sorry. But one thing he always liked about Dariana, she didn't give a fuck about anything but Brian, which appealed to him because he didn't give a fuck about anybody but kind of Annie. But Annie
Yeah.
was a little disposable because he could just call her back. So he appreciated that. And he liked the idea that, like, whatever, as long as Brian's cool, let it burn. So
Yeah.
as far as Sylvester was concerned, totally appreciated that. And as far as like looking at character motivations, which he was always trying to kind of do, understood that like 100%. Like, I get that. Cool. Yeah, don't
Well,
trust
also-
anybody.
Well, also, our very first stream session was your visions from the Master of Visions. All of you had a little bit. Like Victor, I don't know if all of you went back and listened to it, but Victor, you were basically, and when I wrote those visions, what I wanted to do was to kind of create the hardest possible choice that you guys would have, and also give you potentially a little glimpse of your past and a little glimpse of your future. So Jason, I actually basically wrote out the story of how you became a Derricool and how you, because in your story, you always like to leave these like open-ended, just like kind of things. And there was this girl that was basically like, you killed my family or whatever. And you were like scouting out this house that, and eventually, you know, these ghouls were there and you had a choice to either bolt and leave the girl or to get the girl out. And you were just like, run, and like pushed her out the door and were attacked by these ghouls and eventually became who you are. And that was a choice that you got to make. Victor, you had to choose to kill Beatum or worship Turnabog, and you tried to kill Beatum. And Sylvester, you had the option to either basically let Annie or your brother die. But Dariana, you had the choice to, it was pretty much the exact scenario that was laid out before you. Same room, same everything, same option, basically. I'll give you the book back if you kill Brian. And she even pulled out the coagulation powder that you killed your sister with. And do you feel like that vision early on and having to make that choice before changed how you made your decision this time? And also then, do you feel like it was different because you knew the consequence was becoming a vampire working for her?
Yes. I think partly the fact that she would give me the book back, but I just had to become a vampire for a while. was a little bit more, made me lean more towards that. But at the same time, I liked the idea of, so in the vision, Dariana killed Brian to get the book back. And so that kind of like messed with her a little bit. And then as the timeline continued, she got closer with Brian, even though she couldn't speak to him. And so when the choice came back again, it would have been harder to kill Brian because they had like formed even more of a bond.
But see,
and so,
the
yeah,
reason I would have loved that is that is what
I
that
know
would have
an
been a
evil
great form of
character.
manipulation, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know Ryan, like I'm sure when he devised this, he's like, oh, this is gonna be. I know that would have thrown him for a complete 180. Like, holy shit, you know?
That would have been
'Cause
amazing.
Yeah,
That
it
would
would
have
have been.
so
It would have been
amazing.
great.
I
It would have been
know.
so good. Sorry,
I had
sorry to
no-
keep saying it's
Thanks,
great.
guys. I got it.
No, it would have been great. I was leaning towards, I thought you were going to take the land, but Daria, I was 100% positive you were not going to kill Brian.
Yep.
100%
it.
positive you were not going to kill Brian. What's also fun about that room is the other option you guys all had was to just try to attack Dalagen. And what none of you knew was there were about 30 soldiers on the balcony with Timbor standing right next to Dalagen the entire time using greater invisibility. Just waiting for the first spell or something to go off for him to just pop into existence and drop 9th level spells on every single one of you.
I kind of would have liked to fight him because I had been planning to fight him this whole time, was like collecting spells to fight, to like eventually get the book back and like destroy him. But
He was there. I would love to throw up a picture of the roll 20 where on the GM layer is, because in the original story, the balcony, the original vision, the balcony was filled with soldiers the whole time. Like it literally was an exact recreation of the vision. And like if I go to the roll 20 window right now, you're going to see on the GM layer, invisible to all of you, Timbor standing right next to her and all of the soldiers ringing the entire room. And it would have been, I don't even know how we would have played out the finale of the campaign. It would have been very different if you guys started going off. Because that night, he was a 9th level caster, like as far as spells go. Like he could have power word killed like most of you after 1 or 2 hits, you know, and if all of the soldiers fire their bow at the same time, you're taking 30 hits at one time. I mean, you know, it would have been a very interesting combat that I'm to an extent kind of glad, but also would have been interesting to see 15th level characters fighting like, you know, 30 guys with 20 hit points and a you know, and a 9th level caster. It would have been interesting. But just so you know, just in your mind, you were 5 feet away from Timbor the entire time that situation was going on, and he was just standing there watching.
damn.
So it was fun. Do
wish
you
I could've
think?
killed him.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if, especially if you would have done something AOE, and it would have been like you see it like reflect off of this like humanoid shape, and it's just like boom, Timbor's there now. He just casts time stopping it and takes the book back and just walks away. Yeah.
Check.
Do you feel that Dariana, because I know she has a backstory and everything, and I tried to bring everyone's daggers back in the book. I feel like outside of maybe Cordelia's character, honestly, I probably messed with Dariana's the most because of the whole book thing. Was that okay? I know every time I did something kind of mess with you, I had to message you on Discord and be like, I'm sorry, was that okay? Are you okay? Like, because you know, I know Jason would just be like, yeah, fuck me up, man, let's do this shit. But you know, but how did you feel about that and playing an evil character and kind of pushing a character in this direction? And do you feel like you got any sense of, I don't want to say closure necessarily. I guess closure. You got the book back, but then there's like some consequence to it. Did you feel like Dariana had a satisfying arc?
Yeah, she had an arc. I feel like she has more to do. With Timbor still alive and Dollingen just like rubbing it in her face whenever she gets the chance. I feel like she has some payback to do.
He's one of my favorite
With the help
NPCs.
of
I loved her.
Sylvester.
Yeah.
He has some payback for sure.
Yeah. Again, I knew you guys are working for a vampire. There's a whole vampire kingdom. So to drop that living stake in really early, I was really hoping that would come up at some point, whether it was against Rojan or Lucan or
And
somebody.
don't think I forgot I had it. I've always been aware that I have that living stake. And so my original plan was, Lucan paid me. I mean, not Lucan, Rodion paid me. Lucan's like, now you work for me. I'm like, oh, motherfucker, no, I'll go do this. But, but then the whole thing happened with Dariana, and I started appreciating allies. And these were people I can kind of trust and count on. So I'm like, okay, well, fuck it. We'll use it for her. I'll figure out something later for Lucan, because I got shit I still need him for anyways. So I was like, well, we'll use that to handle that guy, because she's a great ally and still need her around. Yeah, but I never forgot I had the living stake. And there's other things I forgot I had.
We had a lot of stuff we forgot we had.
Yeah.
You guys had
so many things.
so many magic items and so many different things you absolutely had the option to use and completely forgot about many times.
I had like a magic bucket that I just like.
Yep. The
tried
magic
use
bucket was
once,
dope
didn't
too.
work. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck this bucket.
Ryan and I actually talked about what kind of magic items Selvin had, just in case you guys decided to kill her.
Oh.
Like what he was willing to let you guys loot off her corpse. You guys must have some pretty cool shit.
And
Pretty cool
you
shit.
tell.
No, she's still alive. Well,
And the number of NPCs that had so much information to give that you guys were just like, oh cool, you're dead. And it's like, eventually you're gonna have to ask somebody something, and you'll make it so much easier on yourself instead of just murdering them.
I know,
every time
even
immediately.
I know, even things are bad when Cutter's like, are you sure you guys want to do this?
Yeah.
Like in that last city, you guys like, all right, let's just fuck all these people. I'm like, really? Are we really talking about doing this?
It was great. I mean, I loved it.
Because I did have. Well, I was like, fuck it. I'll get the info later, because I speak with Dad at will.
Well, that was funny when you're just like, fuck it, like, yeah, I'll just kill the guy and then talk to his dumb skull. Like, yeah. So Corin, you came in later than everybody, as again kind of like a filling in for Andy's kind of spot a little bit because he was unable to continue. And also, I mean, you played with us in other games here on the channel, and just such a fun person to play with. So we wanted to bring in somebody else, or I wanted to bring in somebody else to help with like the final arc and the finale. And it was kind of, I think I talked to Jason a little bit, and I was just like, if I was going to bring in anybody, I would want to bring in Cam. And then we talked about it. So can you talk just a little bit about like coming in, like you said, it's a unique experience to come into a game that's like over 2 years old, and then basically come in for like the final arc, just that and Corin and all of that.
Yeah, sure. It was funny actually. I had to scroll back into Discord because I remember when Ryan messaged me on Discord. It was kind of like I thought he was going to ask me out on a date. Hey man, how's it going? Hey Ryan, pretty good. What's up? I was wondering what you're usually up to on Wednesday evenings.
Those are my date nights.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was I don't know, surprising. I was like a little. I was cautious. Like I was, we were pandemic. I was looking for shit to do. I was of course down to play, and yeah, we were obviously playing with some of you guys already in the Theros campaign. But yeah, it's a challenging experience because not only is it a campaign that has been going on for a long time, so there's a lot of backstory that, and I watched sporadically when you guys were on, but you guys just have a very tight rapport as well. I'd say more than the average D&D group. Like even when I've played with like groups of friends that were like, knew each other before they started playing together, there was a very clear dynamic. So I was a little concerned coming in, like, trying to gel and make that work, and it didn't end up being a problem. You guys are amazing to play with. Yeah, it was as far as though the character of Corin, you know, Ryan was talking about how he doesn't want to be the DM that's telling the story. He wants to present the scenario and let the players do it. I kind of was a little bit the instrument of that side that he didn't want to play. And I kind of, that's sort of how I wanted to play Corrin as well. Was, you know, guys are just fucking around, you know, not getting anything done, bumbling around. I'm like, we gotta go do this thing. We gotta stop the ritual. Because Corrin, I mean, you know, wasn't much time to develop much of a character, given how short it was. You know, like Corrin's primary motivation is he's got a job to do, and his job is to make sure the ritual doesn't happen, and his only option is the implements that are given to him, which is this group. And so I sort of came into it, you know, like I think like I tried to come in pretty hot with Sylvester and Cutter, you know, a little spicy. And so I tried to lean into the, you know, like what are these guys doing? Just, you know, just incompetent. And then when we get to the cave dragon and Corrin just gets his ass kicked, like he is just getting demolished in this cave, and
Oh yeah.
gets his life saved by these people that he perhaps underestimated.
Disintegrate coming in.
That was a good
shit
fight.
again.
That was
Yeah.
a good
That's a great fight. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Um,
That was actually
What else?
Dariana
Yeah.
kind of owned that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hardcore. Yeah. Just like I said, disintegration saved the day again right there. Yeah.
it's a good spell.
But yeah. But
And not just that. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you didn't get to, you know, play for that long, you know, that many sessions. But I do feel like, I mean, especially at the end, Corrin felt like part of the party. You know what I mean? I don't think it was
Oh,
just
for
like
sure.
he didn't feel tacked on, at least to me. I don't
Right.
know how
That's-
the rest of you guys felt.
Yeah.
Sylvester still hates him because he bit him.
Yeah.
He bit me.
Well
Yeah.
deserved.
First meeting, he bit me.
Yeah. Did he bite you
You're
as
gonna-
as
you're gonna
him or
die
as the baby?
eventually.
He was
Yes.
possessed.
Sylvester's
I was
fan, 'cause you
I
bit me.
was possessed by the baby. Yes.
Whatever.
baby,
You Still, you
Yeah,
still
yeah.
bit me.
The
man.
baby.
As
I
babies
love.
do.
Is not cool.
That's funny. I didn't think about that at all. That Sylvester still held
he's
that
still
grudge.
holding-
Yeah.
Oh.
no, he's
He's all
holds
grudges.
He's got a list.
Yeah.
You know, those, like the people that get
Yeah.
back to
Sounds like
from
Eric
bell
had the
tower.
grudge.
Yeah. All right.
Sylvester's a bell tower guy with a list.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's
Oh.
funny because the baby thing was so great because in that scenario, like that monster exists in Midgard, the little baby that like
Oh.
is like projecting its thing on somebody else. So when I think you and I, Cam, had kind of figured out that like this is where you're gonna come in, this is the next scenario that's gonna happen, so you could like this is a good spot to come in. But how the fuck, because that's when you guys were like,
What
the
if we
queen
kill
was
him?
like, find my items, like, you know, or fuck you. So why the fuck would Corrin be there? And then when I was going through and reading all the stat blocks, and then I pulled up all of the Midgard stuff and found the baby one where it can project on someone, I'm like, hey, how would you like to be a baby? And it was cool. It worked out well. My biggest worry was that you guys were gonna murk the fuck
Kill
out
him,
of
yeah.
Corrin's real
Yeah.
body before you killed the baby. And it was a
Okay.
real worry for a little
it was
bit.
pretty fucking close. Even after it was over, I was still like, in that first session where it revealed, like he came out of the baby thing, I was still like, I think I still need to kill this fucker.
Yeah.
Even after I knew Cam was coming out as the character, it was like, oh, we probably need to have him as a character.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
we
know
didn't-
what Ryan's doing is he's using a character. I'm like, he bit me.
Because you didn't
I
kill
still
Captain
like-
Rain until the other Cam was already
Charlie.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I was still like, what- Sylvester, would he
Trying to kill
let
too many
go?
Cams
Would he
here.
let that go? I don't think he would.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm glad you didn't. And I know that you weren't able to play the last couple episodes there, but do you feel like Corrin got like I know you were kind of brought on for a purpose, but do you feel like Corrin got a conclusion to the story, and are you glad that Corrin got a chance to get a conclusion to the story?
Yeah, I think so. Like in my mind, this was sort of Corin's last big thing he needed to do. Like he's had a long career. He's been Derricool for a very long time, and this was his last thing he had to do, and he's fucking retired. Like he's done. You know, if Cutter doesn't want that barony, then Corin's more than happy to take
The
it.
sulfur to be on the sulfur sea tarpon fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, actually, I something that I don't think I would have done, but I love that Andy did, was speaking up for the group. I think if I would have been in that, I think I would have played it more straight and would have just you know, like went up there and been like, "Fuck you guys." But I think you know, again, we sort of like time compressed the rapport building, but I think Corin ended up with a lot of respect for the party. Even Sylvester, who overtly was doing everything possible to make life harder for us, covertly was like pretty instrumental, and I think he realized that. Yeah, so I was happy with how things ended up with Corin. And it was also perfect that, you know, like his whole job was to get this group here, and like he feels like he's sort of leading the way, and it gets to the end and like he can do fuck all against the end boss.
Yeah, you guys multiple times has stuff come up where it's just like you've made like one or two of the right choices, because you guys all could have died in Seawall, but Force Cage really saved the day there.
Mm.
The Alcava fight, I would say that there were, at least in my mind, realistically, 4 very close TPKs throughout this campaign. I would say the zombies in the beginning was very, very close. I would say Alcava was basically done. I'll say that the Seawall fight, even with the Force Cage, got real fucking close there at the end. And I'll say that again, if you don't throw him off and she doesn't in the same turn disintegrate that guy, it would have been a real likelihood that you guys just get fucking murk TPK, and I have a whole thing of like post what happens with the Derricool and Midgard and everything, and you guys make 2 of the right decisions at just the right time, and it completely changes the entire fight, because the final fight took less time than the pre-final fight up top, where you guys took like 0 damage, and it would have been the exact opposite. You guys took 0 damage to wipe these guys out, go down, and then if you would have tried to leave, you wouldn't have been able to. Much like the Seawall situation when you were in that room. And basically, it would have got to a point where the guy was doing so much damage, I don't even know if I would have let all the turns play out. If I would have just been like, the creature fully comes out, basically takes up half the room, and just fucking does everything, comes up out of the floor, and does a whole thing.
Plans set for me.
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 of you would have been able to get out, but then as a party,
for the worst case scenario where, oh fuck, we're not pulling this off. So I had some escape plans set aside, but depending on, you know, how bad it is, if I'm first of all, I'm probably low man, maybe Dariana, we're probably similar. We're not high HP, but she has blood armor. I don't. My AC is so.
I think you guys like have as much HP as I do.
Huh?
I think you guys have as much HP as I do, if I remember right.
I normally have 11.
Okay. Oh, really?
But with blood armor, it gives me 18 for an hour.
HP.
Yeah,
HP.
I was like 11 hit points.
Sorry. I think I have 100.
Yeah, I have like 115 or 16 or something like that.
103.
I think Corin would have been like the tankiest, I think, between Corin and Victor.
Like 170.
I got 103 and I had
170.
15 AC, which at this level, 15 AC.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys
every time.
I'm glad you guys did the way you did.
And if I saw it going sideways, I was the fuck out.
I bet. Well, you weren't really.
It's Sylvester. You have to excuse him, but it's like later, guys. I had escape plans. I had like multiple ways to bail.
I'm really glad you guys figured it out, but at the same time, like in my head, I was like, I'm not gonna balance this to the end. Like this is the scenario that's gonna play out. Like you guys are trying to stop this thing that's literally fucking world altering, and this creature comes out. And I didn't want to pull any punches with it. And again, like any blood hits that altar stone from Avgost, and the thing becomes fully in this world. And part of the reason that like portal space was even open for you guys to fall into was because that's Evermaw. That's where Regala like exists. It's like basically like a hell world. And that portal was open because he wasn't fully through yet. So when you tossed people in, there was that kind of potential to like come back because it was linked. And that's why when you guys got rid of him, the portal started to close because it was only open because he was kind of like in it at the time. So it would have been. I'm glad you guys got chucked in there. Well, I wanted to throw you guys in there because I wanted to use that cool map. But if you wouldn't have done that first with him, I wanted to grab the next one and throw you guys in there anyway, so that it was there and you guys saw that as an option to be able to potentially be like, how can we use this thing as like a timekeep or something like that. So you guys did. I hope it was satisfying at the end. I honestly think Sister Alcava fight was I would say that the Seawall fight and then very closely after the Alcava fight were my favorite fights that I've GM'd in this campaign. But I didn't think of a different way that this one could have gone. So I hope there was at least a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction in that fight.
Yeah, I remember when I threw that guy off, I looked. A lot of times I'm like, what is he thinking? What is he thinking? And I looked at your face, and you just let me throw him off like no big deal. And I was like, oh, maybe like he's like, fuck this. Like it doesn't matter. Sure, you can throw him off this cliff. But it's funny in hindsight now knowing that was kind of one of the only ways we wouldn't have been destroyed. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I also let you just. No, I'm sorry, Jess.
I like on stream. I was like waffling. I was like, should I do it? Like the
I tried to poker face the fuck out of that.
Well,
yeah, Ryan, you're pretty hard to
Oh,
I was
we
making
did,
the wrong play.
motherfucker, because I'm like, disintegrate him, and then it was like, wait. And then
It finally worked.
whatever. I'm
Well,
like,
you didn't say disintegrate. You said kill. So I was like waiting. I was like,
I
what
said-
spell?
I said,
Did you say?
disintegrate.
Yeah, he said
I
disintegrate.
must have missed
yeah.
it because I was waiting for what spell you were going to use. And if it was anything besides something that would basically completely vanish him, like if you would have even hit him with a fireball, I would have said that it would have left some like oozing blood or something from it, like anything, any kind of damage, any blood spell. Like if it didn't instantly like, or banishment. Like I thought you were gonna banish Avgost
That
as soon as the
would've worked,
green,
too.
but
I
it would have
didn't
worked.
use Bad banishment. I specifically said disintegrate.
Yeah.
I
And
did. When
honestly,
he said
that's
it, I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And then your reaction made me think like that's probably the wrong thing to do. But
Me too. So you looked
Dariana-
at me, I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I thought it was a good idea, but maybe not.
well, the other thing about just letting you throw that guy in, because I was like, realistically, he just finished this fucking spell that summoned Regala, the fucking demon lord here. He's barely on his feet. It's gonna take a while for him to even recover. So he's basically a fucking like nothing right now. You could have just like tipped him over and he'd fall in. So when you're like, can I chuck him? I'm like, absolutely. I'm not even gonna make you roll for that. He's literally so weak right now. He couldn't do anything to stop it. So you're like, all right, I just chuck him in. Cool. Sounds good. And then what did you guys think when he fell back through?
Yeah,
was
that's
cool.
why I thought what I did was completely pointless. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, he's just fucking back again. He's basically reset, new life, whatever it is. That's exactly what I thought. But then obviously when we were both down there, I knew immediately, oh, we got to jump off this thing and go through the portal.
You've also seen the map before.
Yeah. For anybody who wants to know, I used that map in Putrescence Regnant in Merkborg.
Oh, nice.
So
Well, a
with some-
variation
a variation
of
yeah,
that map.
yeah.
Yeah. Shay and Peku really kill it with those
Yeah,
maps.
that's awesome.
But yeah,
was
I mean, like I
thinking,
said,
oh, finally, I get to hold person.
yeah, you did. And then fucking with like 1 HP left, Matt like murks the fight. Like what Matt does, goes ham on the guy, murks him for like 70 damage or something when he had like 1 or 2 left.
No, that's
And that was
that's
it.
why we love Spativa.
But that was the multiple options. If you got rid of Avgost, the creature stays as the creature was, 250 HP and resistant to literally everything, with plus 14 to hit. And you guys did 14 total damage. I think that was all Corrin. And without Avgost, you still have to fight that thing and Marrow Blight.
Well, so here's my
And then-
question.
Yeah.
After what I want to do, but fucking Cutter and what was your name, Cam?
Corrin.
They fell in the thing. But what I want to do is after we disintegrated Avgost, leave. Like I'm like, we're done. Let's go. That was kind of my thinking, is let's bail. What would have happened in that scenario? I mean, they fell down the pit, so that kind of became a non-thing for a moment. I was still considering it. No offense, guys, but I'm still like, well, kind of did my job. I'm out of here.
It would have been difficult because probably what would have happened is Regala would have gone as far out of the portal as he possibly could. He wouldn't have been able to come out completely. Destroyed the Bone Cathedral, probably destroyed most of Vandecool, and then just probably faded away because Radomir needed to both summon the creature and then use Avgost blood to make it corporeal. And then when it was there, its power was going to give or even Bardazane was going to, through Regala, imbue the power that they wanted, which was to create Derrickle almost instantly and with way more, and have all the Derrickle be a lot more powerful. But without the blood, basically, whenever Marrow Blight lost the spell, like he would have just faded away. So you guys could have potentially got away doing that. Or if you defeat Marrow Blight, ritual, like his summoning kind of disappears and it goes away.
So here's the question for you, because going into this combat, I'm like, going into the session, I was like, they want his blood. So my first thought was, I don't have disintegrate or anything like that. My first thought was like, when we first walk in, I should just tell Darion to disintegrate that guy, and then we run.
Would have, I mean, the ritual
have
would
been a
have been
viable
stopped.
option? I mean, because my thinking was they need his blood. That's what we've been told from the get-go.
Yep.
And so
that would have absolutely
and then I was
been a
like, well, that's
viable option.
no fun. So I got to the point where like, well, I know this is the last session, so I don't want to do that because that's no fun. But would that have been a viable option?
What I probably would have done in that period is I would have created I've used this in a different campaign, different end of a story. I would have done some type of like running, like from danger. This thing comes up, the ceiling starts to come down, buildings are falling. Had you guys rolling to like dodge debris and figure out what direction you want to go, like quick rolls. And if you guys like got on the boat and fucking like gust of winded it or some shit and rolled out, just seeing this fucking worm destroying Vandecool and then like dissipate, that's probably what would have happened. But it was viable.
Cool.
Yeah. Avgost was the key. But how it went was Marrow Blight summoned the thing and then was going to use the blood to make it corporeal. You had to stop one or both. And if you only stopped one and didn't run away, you had to then defeat the monster, or whenever you defeated Marrow Blight, it would have faded away. But Marrow Blight was going to fucking basically bounce too, or protect himself with some way, or get behind Regala.
But I didn't care because our mission was to stop the ritual. So my whole thinking was,
it would have been hard to get to Marrow Blight too. Yeah. It would have been hard to get to Marrow Blight, and I probably would have had some other servants of the unsated god like drop down in to like protect Marrow Blight while you guys were doing stuff. Basically try to force you to kill the thing. But when you did both of the two things, that would have stopped the whole thing, like basically in the same turn. I was like, well, that to me felt a little anticlimactic, but you fucking survived. So good job. You know,
well, the other thing I want
you did what you did.
Until you told me the worm was like kind of non-incorporeal, I wanted to polymorph it into a turtle.
Oh yeah,
and just go set it in the middle of town.
Yeah, that thing had
let it go and wreak havoc on the whole fucking place.
It had advantage on all saves and legendary resistances.
But I have
like plus like 15.
I could have cast it like 5 times.
Yeah, but I mean his
my
saves
was when the worm first appeared. I'm like, oh, but then you told me it was like this thing of the god. I'm like, it's probably gonna.
It
pass
didn't
me.
have a save under double digits, and I don't think there was a save under 12. So with advantage, it would have been like really hard not to beat even a
Okay.
19 every time.
Good.
I mean, he was hitting
Glad
for
I didn't-
35s on you guys.
Yeah.
I'm glad I
Like-
didn't go that route though, but it would have been
Yeah.
really fun to turn
It
a
would have been good.
big giant
Yeah.
worm into a turtle, then put it in the middle of town and let it go.
You know what's really interesting about the
You're
campaign,
speaking
especially
of
because we had
Sylvester.
Yeah. Especially because we had pre-campaign stuff. When we look at like the number of episodes we streamed and where they landed, we streamed 50 episodes and ran 80. But Cordelia left after episode 8. Only 8 streamed episodes. But that feels like so much farther in the campaign than it was. We had 42 episodes after that, more like almost half the entire campaign, more than half the campaign after that, and yet it feels like so much longer. And you guys were in Seawall by episode, I mean, the Toe Shadowfae episode was only episode 15 on stream, and you guys were in Seawall by episode 17, and we just did 50. And I felt like Seawall was like, all right, we're almost at the end. And we literally streamed for another like 35 episodes. So it was crazy. Selvin, did you have, I know we touched on Selvin a little bit. We talked about her a little bit. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about with Selvin at all? Or did we kind of hit everything with her since you were also part of the campaign?
Not really. I did like, it was getting asked to be Selvin was like, oh my God, I'm part of the Cool Kids Club now. It was just like, they like me. They really like me. And going from like watching all of the games and being like, oh, evil campaign, that's so cool. Like 3 sessions into you guys streaming, I was like, okay, if I played this, what would I do? I already had like my character that I was imagining in like somewhere else. Like, what would they be doing in this kind of campaign? And then I got asked to play Selvin, and that was really cool. And I was excited.
That's awesome. Well,
Plus,
we
I had
love you,
never
and
played Ranger before. And I love playing utility characters just because it opens up all the RP options. I like being support, but I hate healing. So
Exactly.
utility
Yeah.
is useful.
So that's why you play warlocks.
Yeah, that's
There
why I
you
play
go.
warlocks.
love Warlock.
Basically.
Love
So
Warlock.
how'd it go?
Death Cleric is still my favorite. All right, that's about 10 o'clock-ish. I think we got through everyone. Are there any other campaign questions?
One
Like,
quick
anything that you
one. I have one
guys-
really quick one.
Yeah.
So when
Really quick.
Corin and I were swept off that ledge into that pit, why did you choose to do that instead of have us take damage?
Instead of, because
Yeah.
I wanted to, my goal was to get you in the pit, but if I 3-hit you, like that's potentially over 100 points of damage.
That's what I mean.
On one of you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just
what
curious.
I wanted more than anything was to be able to use that map and have that like kind of split scenario.
Okay, gotcha.
But I also wanted to explain where Marrow Blight went, where it was a story bit, because I wanted you guys to see where the portal led and where this creature came from. I wanted you guys to realize that it was a portal like to another place, and that the creature wasn't just like randomly like there, like that it was actually like a thing. And I really wanted that option to like set the scene and really, because I wasn't sure how the combat was going to go, if it was going to be like a slog for a part of it where we were just like hitting and going, to be able to break the action up a little bit by like getting you guys in there. I'd already planned this to happen. And once Avgos disappeared, I wanted to give you guys this glimpse of this other place and maybe give you guys a little bit more information you could draw from it. And to just, like I said, break it up and do something a little bit different.
Got
So
it.
that it was mostly like a story beat that I really wanted to hit and give you guys the opportunity to see something more, and to see this like weird space out there with this like blood sand and these cool worms. It was just a cool moment I wanted you guys to be able to have and see, more than anything. And honestly, if I would have went as hard as I could with that thing, even in 1 or 2 turns, he could have murked anyone within 30 feet. So I wanted to give you guys this option to, have something a little different happen, because I don't want to just like look at the stat block and just go hit.
Right.
I wanted something different to happen, and a sweep was I think an interesting way to do it. Because Avgost, if he would have still been there, would have been swept off too. And it would have been interesting what you guys decided to do with that.
That
Interesting.
would have been really interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, anything else in the campaign? Any story beats? Yeah.
I got some questions. First one is, where does everybody see their, because we're not dead, we're alive, we're evil, whatever, but hopes and dreams. Where does everybody see their character like 5-10 years down the road?
Well,
Like-
that's to find out, right? That's for the
Is it though? Maybe we can pick it up 10 years down the road. I don't know. Maybe you don't achieve those goals.
I honestly don't think Cutter would be. I think he would be probably doing the same thing. You know, maybe
Yeah, you
he's.
didn't have like a
No.
goal, like an end game.
Well, it started out as being like, I want to get revenge and get my face back, but that, you know, transformed over time, right? He kind of
Right.
his motivations shifted. So, yeah.
So what is his motivation shift to?
Like I said, it was pretty much just loyalty, finishing the job. He was, you know, duty essentially was it.
Mm.
And then once that had been fulfilled, which it was, you know, he has no interest in being part of this Ghoul Imperium with all this land and a title. So he's
Right,
like,
right.
no, that's not me. Like I'm not doing this for riches, you know, or power.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was interesting for Cutter, like, because Midgard has that like Shadow Road area, right? And it's got that whole like their version of where the Shadowfae are from.
mhm.
And I could kind of picture him being super successful, right? Like navigating.
Yeah,
that
but
kind of realm.
yeah, and I think that's what was kind of, you know, a lot of people think when they think character arcs, they think, oh, someone's gonna get all their dreams are gonna come true and stuff. It's like Cutter's like a pretty simple guy. Like doesn't have big
Yeah.
machinations or big dreams, or he's not trying to
Alright.
destroy the world, or it's not as
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect friend for Sylvester because
Yeah,
he's got big machinations.
exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. The chaos at the end. I mean, I'll tell you what, like your use of chaos and my encouragement with the rod to just be like, fuck
That was
up, man.
perfect because it reminded me. I'm like, he hasn't done weird shit in a while, and that was
Yeah.
great because it ignited that little spark. Because it had been a while since he'd done like, oh, let's just randomly start shit.
And it made a
But
difference in the
all
final
random
in
start
the
shit
cathedral.
did serve purposes. Like
Yeah.
it's random
Oh, yeah.
start shit, but there's always a little
Useful.
something behind it.
Yeah, there always has to be. I mean, because even the way that you guys took Dariana, Darjana, who is not a princess, and the easiest thing you guys ever did in the entire campaign was to kidnap her, and then you left a letter on like her parents' doorstep or whatever that was like sending them out to like the Rothenian plains.
Yeah.
Literally no repercussions for you guys or the kingdom at all because of your machination. So there's always a purpose to it, even if it was just to murder some people. But I think those the guys at the bar like piss you off, and you're just like, all right, well, I'm gonna frame them for murdering a bunch of people. Here you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Uh,
Everyone is suffer a fool.
yeah.
So
But yeah, this is-
Victor, where do you see your character in 5?
No, I mean, Victor, I feel like he's been lost for a while, and now it's totally clear cut because he's heard the voice, and he heard the voice shortly after praying for the first time in a while. So he's just it's like the thing showed back up on the radar, and it kind of, curtains close, and you just assume that he's making a beeline for the pull. Not necessarily
Right.
west,
Beat 'em.
probably
Beat
back
'em
east
showed
of
up.
Mannheim.
Your daddy beat him.
Yeah.
Right. That's a biggie.
And Dariana, you're gonna be stuck for 10 years.
Yeah, we know her 10-year plan.
Yeah. I think
If it's
I'll
only 10
try to
years.
work my
If
way
it's-
up
Yeah.
in the vampire
However,
kingdom.
We all
So-
hopped on the boat together at the end of that last session.
To go to Lucan.
Okay.
Yeah, my goal is to
Yeah.
marry Lucan and then work with Sylvester to kill him and take
Oh.
over.
Fuck yeah.
Gotta be a
we're on the
vampire,
same page, baby.
Gotta be a vampirist first, and you already got that locked up. So yeah,
Oh,
you'll be
yeah.
an elf-marked vampire, working for Dollingen, close to Lucan. There you go. With plenty of Bryans on your necklace there. Yeah. Dude, and I gotta say, Brian almost died a couple of times. Remember when one of the only, not the ways to instantly kill a blood elemental, they're like fucking they're like cotton candy in water. Like
Water,
they just
yeah.
instantly dissolve. There was a period of time, remember the confusion stuff when you guys were fighting the Darrow?
Mhm.
They kept hitting you guys with confusion, and you'd have to like do something in a random direction. And it's like you have to run a random direction. And he almost ran into one of those little pools. I 100% would have let that happen too.
I know.
You know I didn't though, right? You know that I altered it by 1 so it would be just a little short.
Oh,
Did you? No, he
I
ran in
did.
the opposite. He didn't run in the direction of a pool,
Look
did
at
he?
Janelle.
He didn't.
So sweet.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Because he would have died instantly right there.
Ryan's
In
a
my head, there were
secret
two
softie.
things. No, I was like, two
Real
things popped
softy.
in my head. I don't want to do this to Dariana right now. I kind of fucked her up with the book and stuff. And
Yeah.
2, I definitely want to kill Brian, but this feels like a really pussy way to go. And I wanted to make it I want to make it hurt way more. So I'm
Just
like,
know that if you had killed Brian, I would have crushed another ruby and made.
I
Ryan.
know. And oh, well, all right. Well,
And he would have been
we
Brian.
could have got Brian, guys. All right. Well, then I'm glad I didn't kill
You
Brian.
didn't keep it a
But-
secret either. You're like, I'm gonna kill fucking Brian.
Hey, listen, there were a lot of times where I said a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
like protected you guys a little bit as we
Oh,
did some things too.
No, for sure. But I'm just saying that last episode, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm killing Brian.
Oh, that was a joke too. Because if I wanted to kill him, I would have killed the shit out of Brian really
Oh,
early.
yeah,
I did get him
yeah.
as low as I probably ever did too. I think he was down to like 40 HP or something.
Obviously, as a DM, you could just be like, never mind.
I almost wanted it to be like a
Someone steps
water.
in and you're all fucking dead. So,
I almost wanted it to be like a water fountain up top. And when the ground broke one time, I wanted like the fountain to just like let the water unleash and just
Oh.
like pour
I even
down
have like a manipulate water spell to keep.
to keep the water away.
Protect Brian.
Remember when Brian swallowed that guy, but he was invisible?
That was
and
great.
was just like walking around with the fucking Daracool inside of
So
him.
good.
That was the Go Ham episode.
Yep.
so that's my
It's
last
crazy.
question for everybody is favorite moments.
Yeah.
I already
Moments. Sure.
said mine. Yeah.
What was yours again? Alcava?
Alcava probably. Yeah.
Go on.
Victor?
Oh my God.
Victor's asshole.
No.
That was my favorite part.
Victor's
I mean, that was
asshole.
just-
They're
that
on
was
his
just
favorite
funny.
is Victor's asshole. All right. And the accompanying teratoma.
Yeah.
God, it's impossible to pick just one. But I did the one thing I missed while we were online, although I agree with everybody, like online saved us from the insanity of COVID. But like there was some times where we would just kind of be sitting around the table and just like being in the characters and kind of, and especially the scene where I heard from upstairs where you guys had the bar scene and Tongue Taker through the funeral. Like it just was so, it was funny and it was like, and it lasted forever. Like, and I don't think I've ever been part of a D&D game where just the RP just went on and on and on, like in a good way. In a way that helped everything. And it was funny because that kind of inspired me. I guess that was my favorite moment because it inspired me to do my one shot. So
Nice.
Yes.
Me? Victor's asshole.
Oh, that's your favorite moment is Victor's asshole? It
Victor
really is. That's not a joke.
I mean, have you
Classic.
seen it? It's pretty
No.
amazing.
But we learned a
No,
little
I
bit
mean-
today about.
I guess out of game, I liked all of the little things that turned into like memes. Sack
Yeah.
bats, Cracksworth, things
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Metric
those
dude.
were great.
Metric dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metric dude.
Metric dude.
I
yeah.
will say, Sam's little stick drawings that she would do.
Yeah.
Those were
I missed
cool.
the fuck
They're
out
great.
of those.
Yeah.
Those
they were
were
great.
awesome. Those
It was
were
a really good way to kind of break the evil and the tension up a little bit, where we could
Yeah.
we knew we could like kind of dig into it a little bit because we knew we were going to get some bullshit like afterwards. That was great.
And it added a lot of levity to
Yeah.
very evil situations. One of my favorites was Tongue Taker shoves, like just trying to hide him and trying to open the bag. We shoved that little gnome or whatever it was. It was a shorter race.
Yeah, it was a gnome. Yeah.
Into the bag of holding, and I was purposely trying to open it to let it have air. But we got in a fight, and I threw it down the stairs and whatever. And this thing is dying, which is a horrible.
And you forgot. You forgot, and it suffered and
Yeah, I forgot it
choked
was
to
in the
death.
bag and it dies, whatever. But the little stick drawings added levity, which is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely miss those.
But my favorite part of the campaign was one I wasn't part of. So we played a lot of the tabletop. And like you pointed out, Matt, the RP was heavy. We had all kinds of stuff. And then we went to the online, and it was great. And it kept me connected to all of you, but I felt we lost certain things. But then one day I was sick, had the flu, couldn't be there. Janelle was in there, her first session, and I listened to it online. I'm like, oh my God, this is an amazing game. And I was laying there sick with the flu, cracking up, like laughing out loud, like people put LOL when you really LOL.
Yeah.
I was like sitting there sick as a dog, like literally laughing out loud. I'm like,
yeah, that's when
this is fantastic. This is
that lady
great.
wanted a kiss. Yeah, that lady just wanted a kiss.
That was
and,
my
everyone
favorite
got all weird about it.
part of our whole
Yeah.
campaign was when I got to step back and watch it sick and still be like, oh my God, this is amazing. That's when I was like, yeah, this is good stuff.
This and the amount that the memes again that brought up the toe stuff all the way to today and probably
Yeah.
forever.
So
like,
many things live from that episode.
just some random improv from Andy about like linking toes became
I don't
the
think
way
he planned
to,
on that because he,
So good.
no
he was
the
riffing.
way to link the whole Anu Akma thing, because of course Jess had to bring that back and you guys had to sit
Oh.
on the ground and link toes.
Still have to kill her too. By the way,
Oh, Dariana?
no. That priestess. Sylvester's still got a shit list. Like people that
Yeah,
have
no, we
died.
got it. You got murder.
Oh, back at
murderless.
the back at the
Princess.
necropolis.
Yeah, her.
Oh,
She's
fuck
dead.
yeah, I know. I forgot I know. She ran the fuck out of that city so fast.
Sylvester's
She
got a
knew.
list. People that eventually have to die.
Corin, as a listener or a player, did you have a moment that you were like, fuck, like, you know?
Mine was also the linking toes.
It was such
We know
a good
that's Circe's
episode,
favorite.
right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Circe's
it's-
favorite.
Yeah.
That's
Whenever
just one of the
Circe's
funniest. Yeah, it's just one of the funniest things I think I've ever heard in any camp, really in anything. Actually, is magnificent.
I've laughed more during this campaign than probably at anything else for the last like 10 plus years. Like as an adult human being, I've laughed more with you guys than for any other reason.
Which is great
So.
considering it's an evil campaign.
yeah.
I laughed more during this evil campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, I said this
No,
before too. An
seriously.
evil campaign just allows a bigger spectrum of choices.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's really all it does. You know, you don't feel like you have to always kind of be moving in this kind of like good-ish direction. It just allows you to have a spectrum of choices. Because you guys did some good shit too. You guys help people, whether it's for ulterior motives or not, like you do. And you fucking murdered the fuck and really fucked up a lot of people. But I mean, you know, it is what it is. Janelle, did you have a favorite campaign moment?
Okay, so the toes, obviously. But
Right.
I think one of my favorite parts watching was when you guys were just hacking every single piece off of your bodies, trying not to
Oh.
die in that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
That was an amazing one.
I was like, yes, they're going to die. Okie
Oh my
dokie.
God, that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. That was good. That was a really fun, though. I think prepping for that whole dungeon was my favorite, like prep, like out of game stuff. The final room was adapted from a Source of Victory adventure that he had wrote for me for like my home setting, and I talked to him how to adapt it. But then the dungeon in that area in Empire of the Ghouls, I'm gonna be honest, it's not good. It's really not good. And basically after like the first room, I was like, I need to rewrite this entire fucking thing. And I did it on stream on my channel. We were actually getting a lot of viewers at the time. A lot of people were like hopping in, giving suggestions. Janelle was there. It was like a stream built kind of dungeon. And Sursa was there like every morning helping write it. And I really wanted the room that room was in was originally some type of like anti-gravity trap where you guys would just like shoot up to the ceiling and come down and stuff. And I'm like, this feels so not the Southlands. Like, why is this random gravity thing?
Yeah.
So I wanted to do, if I could have, I would have put that room earlier so that, because you guys got like,
No.
when you chopped your toes, when you chopped your bits off, you got a minus to a stat for that.
Yeah.
And I would have made you do the whole dungeon with that minus and then got your body parts back. So you only got like a couple of rooms before that. So I would have redone it if I had
Because we
started
dropped
prepping a
into
little bit
that.
earlier.
That flowed
Yeah.
well, actually, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like certain things, it's been so long.
Yeah.
Thank you for Jill for bringing that up. I totally forgot about that kind of whole section, although she's on my shit list. That was a great section of our campaign. I
loved, yeah.
I think that whole little section of when we got Seawall and that whole thing.
Beat him was a knoll.
Really good. Yeah, Beat
Nolan.
was in the jaw.
Nolan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nolan. Oh my God, that was an epic section of our campaign.
Yeah.
I think that was fantastic.
I love that. And yeah, the body hacking was hysterical because I put like,
Yeah.
that was another opportunity for a TPK. You guys were like 4 minutes away or something. Because I was like, I'm not kidding. You can't use any magic to get away. The room will fill with sand and you guys will all die. I had a real life timer on the screen that was like,
Yeah.
I'm not helping you. Figure it the
No.
fuck out. And you're literally like,
Yeah,
just
people are
fucking
chopping
hacking shit off.
That was
Yeah.
great. And obviously Sylvester's like, pinky toe.
Yeah. But I also knew that
But
like,
Beat
I also
like,
knew if
I'm
you-
chopping fucking off everything. Go ham.
well, it's the knoll and
Mr.
he thought it would
Goham.
work for the knoll and it didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also knew that the very next time you leveled up, that Victor was going to get the spell to
Yeah.
regrow limbs. So I
Yeah,
was like, if you
regenerate.
survive,
Yeah.
you're not going to be disfigured forever. So
But
there's a
even
little
prior
nice
to that,
bonus.
Even prior to that,
Yeah.
I think it was a good build-up. That section I thought was really well done. We had to go through the graveyard. We had a good fight in the graveyard there, and
Yana got
Yeah.
fucked up with fireballs real bad.
yeah. Oh,
A
fuck,
new
yeah.
look.
The
Yeah,
new
that
look.
was a
Red
good
card,
fight.
man.
And then dealing with the whatever her name was, and that was a good section. That was actually that flowed well. We had good conflicts, but still had to play it a certain way without burning bridges because we needed certain things.
I know that was hard for you.
Yeah,
But-
it is.
Yeah.
I have a question for Ryan.
Okay.
Were there any red cards that you really enjoyed using?
Oh God. You know,
Oh.
I really like the red cards, but a lot of them were just like minuses to stats and stuff like that. I think the one that for Daryana, I don't remember what it was, whether it was a red card or what it was, but I know that whatever it was why she got so fucked up. I think it was
Yeah.
like
It was
Yeah.
everything
everyone
focused on her.
targets,
Yeah.
everything focuses on her. And I even
Oh.
forgot to use it for a round or two. And all of those guys had fireball. So it was literally just like, well, boom, there's another one, boom, there's another one. And you were like trying to run away and it was like, boom, here's another one. That was my favorite use of the red cards probably.
Wasn't it a
Because
red
even in
card
the
that,
even in
like,
the
starts a
final
bot?
it was. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only red card bot in the game.
I think there's only one or two total bought, maybe one or two total cards, red or blue. But I mean, I didn't want people to buy them, but I guess kind of like that's why they're so fucking expensive. It's like $50 to buy a red card or like 50,000 channel points or something like that. So like it was great. It was a great use of it. It was a great card. If it would have just been like -4 to an attack, that would have really sucked. But yeah, that was really fun. I loved Seawall. And again, when we look through the list of things, Seawall took from episode 17 all the way down to episode 27. So that entire section was 10 episodes.
Seawall was
And that's
great.
still, and then you guys went to the Underdark at episode 28 of 50 streamed episodes. Half the campaign was like the lead up to the final episode that only took like 2 in-game weeks or something like that, which is just crazy. I didn't realize like how long it took us to get from like get to the Underdark, get to Vandercool and do this thing. And it was almost half of our entire stream time, which just does not feel real, but it was.
Yeah. Seawall was really fun. I enjoyed that arc.
There were a lot of really good. And then again, the zombie El Cava.
But
and
anytime
everything, I
anybody
loved.
brings up an arc,
that.
I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, are there any other questions, any wrap up, anything? Because this is the end. This is Dark Kingdom's over. And again, I think what people said before, and we've said it again, like I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that like by streaming and by keeping this going, that we have all stayed in contact. I'm the kind of person that like when I don't have a lot of friends a lot of places. Like when I move from a place, like I don't like having people that I hit up like once a year to kind of catch up or whatever. I like prune pretty quickly. Because it's just I don't have the bandwidth for that. Like I care a lot about the people I care a lot about, and I don't really care about the people I don't. And
That's so
I'm
funny.
really glad that
I'm going to interrupt you because I don't have the bandwidth is what when I interview people for positions, I'm like, well, if you don't get the job, I'm not going to get back to you because I just don't have the bandwidth to get back to everybody that I interview.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really glad this didn't just kind of like peter out in hopes that maybe we caught up to play a game every now and then or something like that. I love the streaming has kind of given us like an impetus and kind of like almost a responsibility to like keep it going a little bit. And I really, even though Dark Kingdoms is over, like we're still in Death in Space. We still got one shots going. I still have the podcast going. Janelle's going to run some stuff. I have plans sooner than later to be running games. So this is still kind of like a fear and a hope that like this isn't the end for this and this group and this stuff like that. So I really want to keep going. And it's meant a lot to me. Even though I know I've bitched a lot about 5e to wrap this up, it's been a pleasure. And I love all of you, and it's been super fun. And I want to do this again in other systems and keep going. So it's been a lot, and I really appreciate it. You guys have been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a blast, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Likewise.
Thanks for bringing us all together.
You've all saved my sanity during a crazy fucking time.
Watching the streams helped me get through a lot.
Yeah. And Janelle, you've been amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Janelle runs our website. If you guys haven't checked it out, theadventurearchive.net.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. And
everybody throw your backstories on. Everybody viewing backstories.
Well, if you want to.
Yeah. Let me know if you want me to. Otherwise, we'll just keep it in the Discord for.
Well, that's what I was saying on the Discord.
Yeah. And Cam too, like I said, like there also is just so much fun to play with you, and I'm so glad you got a chance to come on, even if it was just for like the final end of the final arc or whatever. It was a pleasure having Corn in, and it definitely brought like a little bit of a breath of fresh air to have a new character and definitely a different dynamic, which is really fantastic. So definitely really appreciate you coming on, and obviously like you're part of the Adventure Archive and are always welcome to our games, and definitely be bringing you on again if you want to. So.
Well,
Yeah,
her
absolutely.
and
That's-
Janelle, or
Yeah.
not her and Janelle, him and Janelle both.
I know
I
Ryan's
don't know.
leaving, but
I
I
don't
hope
know
to
your
actually.
pronouns. Don't at me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Maybe,
Well,
maybe I'll
what was
actually
that,
get
Cam?
to
What
meet
was that,
some of
Cam?
you guys. I know Ryan's leaving, but maybe I'll actually get to fucking meet some of you in real life other than Matt doing a drive-by at my house.
Yeah, I'm
Get a
local.
t-shirt.
I'm local.
Yeah,
No,
we'll
both
see.
you guys are awesome and great. And actually, I played with both of you in other games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and more games to come.
So that is Dark Kingdoms. That's
I'm not sure.
the end. We're gonna have to get all new emotes and all sorts of stuff now, since this isn't like the pilot program anymore or anything. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what direction we go in. Like I said, I got
do a one-shot anniversary in a year.
I'm down 100%. Put it on my fucking calendar. Matt, you're the note taker.
Done.
And that's it. That's the Dark Kingdoms. We really appreciate everyone that's been with us the entire time. I mean, again, we've been doing this for 2.5 years, and we've been streaming for I think it's like 18 months. And it's been a pleasure, and it's been amazing. We appreciate all of you guys watching, whether you're here on Twitch or on YouTube. And again, I appreciate all you guys playing. You're amazing.
And thanks for the 500 followers, everybody.
Thank you all.
Oh yeah.
We had 500.
500 followers on Twitch, 250 subs on YouTube. If you're watching, hit the follows and all of those, sub on YouTube. None of those things cost you anything, but it makes us feel a lot better when we hit fun numbers. So yeah, that's it. So we are going to we're gonna rate out. Let me see if people are still on. Nope, they're not on anymore. We'll rate out into somebody. And that's it. So thank you guys all so much.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.